Hi guys, this is Dormouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome to another Ramblings of Mad People. And it might be really rambly today because we haven't even written any notes.
No, we're literally doing it off the cuff.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about it fresh.
Well, fresh for you and a few days for me.
Right. Well, and without having talked about it really before.
It's like we haven't discussed what happened in it and our thoughts. And there will be spoilers, so you have been warned. This is spoiler heavy. So if you haven't finished Horizon Zero Dawn yet, don't listen.
Right, and I think that's the first time we said that we were talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, so that's the game we're talking about.
You can tell that we're kind of like...
Yeah. I'm excited.
So am I.
Mm-hmm.
Another franchise that's done very well.
Really good. Yep. So where do we even start?
At the beginning, maybe?
At the beginning of the game.
So, you play as a red-haired young woman called Aloy, who starts out as an outcast from her tribe called the Nora. And we really know next to nothing about what's going on at the beginning. All we know is like she's outcast, the man that's raising her is outcast, but we don't know why. It's like not explained at the start, which I quite liked. That we didn't know anything. It was like, okay, so this is a journey of discovery.
Yeah, and it really was like that the whole way through, because you found out more about the world that you're in and more about the past and the plot and what's going on along with the main character, and it was a way to do exposition that didn't feel like they're telling her stuff that she should already know.
Yeah, it was literally they set it up so that she was as in the dark as we were. So everything that was explained to her was effectively explained to us without having to go over it more than once. Or like if it was gone over more than once, it's because she'd got like the brief outline of what was going on, and then we're given the detail as the story progresses. And I loved the way they wrote it in that they gave us information as we went, rather than a giant avalanche of stuff at the end. Like, this is everything, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, and it really did. It gave you the opportunity to think about it yourself and come to the conclusions like what you thought was going on as you were learning more and more about it. Yeah. And so I liked that. Like you said, it wasn't in a big information dump right at the end, which was good. Very good.
Yeah.
Way to do storytelling, I think. Much preferred.
And they did it in such a way that you could come to your own conclusions as you were going through. And the majority of the time, I got mine right. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, no, I'm dumb. Didn't figure out anything. No, I think I figured most things. Sometimes
what I meant is
like,
that we hadn't
discussed it.
And so I don't know what you were thinking.
It's just, I don't know about you.
No, I don't know about,
I was right.
No. I love the fact that you take it as if I'm like belittling you or putting you down, and I'm really not. I'm just like, I don't know what conclusions you came to because we haven't spoken.
It was
so
funny.
I didn't spoil anything because I was like, there's so much to talk about, and I can't say anything until you finish the game.
So, but yeah, I think I figured most things out as we went through, and some things it was like, you know, it could be this or it could be that or it could be this thing, and it was one of those things.
Yeah.
So cool. So yeah, I liked the setup of the world, like this tribal setting, sometime in the future. And what do you remember about what year this is supposed to be? Or do we not know?
We don't know exactly. There's a bit later on in the story where you know that the year they started a project is like 2066 or and then it's like 2071, And then when you walk into a room, it says, you're late for this meeting by 300,000 days or 30,000
Yeah.
days or whatever. So I did
And
a
she
quick...
says that's hundreds of years, yeah.
I did a quick bit of math, and that's like whatever the number was, it was about 900 years.
Cool. Yeah, so it's quite a bit into the future.
Yeah, we'll say
after
at least several hundred years as far as we're aware.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense for the timeline of things that we find out is happening. But the first thing that you find out really is that, you're in this world, there's been an apocalypse, and now society has sort of rebuilt on the ashes of whatever happened, and it's unclear what happened. We don't know why the ancient ones, as they call them, died, why society collapsed, what happened, but we do know that there's all this ancient technology and robots and things filling the world and whatnot.
And because you also, like, near the start of the game, fall into a ruin and find this thing called a focus, which is basically like a HUD, the heads-up display and scanner for
it kind
your
of
character,
is.
So that you can interact with old technology and scan, scan things that are of interest today. But it uses like physical and chemical scanning, and you have no idea what that is. You're just like, oh look, something glows over there, it's important. Which is how we all play video games, isn't it? Something's glowing, it's important.
Something's glowing, it's important.
So from Aloy's point of view, it's like, that's glowing, it's important. She doesn't know it's like registering DNA from somebody.
Right.
It's following the trail.
I mean, and she knows more than like, oh, it's glowing. She knows that it's like, because it tells her like weakness, this,
Yeah, I know. But what I'm meaning for if you're doing some of the like track down this person mission, she's probably not going to know that they're following their DNA scent trail, whatever.
Right, in order to tell you like, oh, it's this person.
Obviously, if it says use fire, she's going to know to use fire.
Right, yeah. So anyway, like, she doesn't know how it works, but she knows what it's telling her because she like learns from it, and it has all of this information on it.
And she has it for several years in a montage where she kind of learns how to use it and grows up, because you play as her when she's 6 early in the game. And it basically centers around her wanting to know who her mother is, but because she's an outcast, she can't interact with the tribe members. It's just how their society works. So she has to do this like rite of passage thing, the proving to become if she wins, she'll become a member of the tribe and given a boon, and she wants to ask them about her mother, like who she is. Right.
Because in their society, they set it up so that like the women are very important in their tribe, and so the matriarchs are the sort of elder leaders of the tribe. Having a mother and this sort of matriarchal line is important in their culture, and so not having a mother for her is like the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's cool and that's interesting, and I think that actually does follow history because, in certain tribes, and I can't think of them because I don't know well enough, but I do know that I have learned about like certain tribes throughout history have followed matriarchal lines and other ones follow patriarchal lines.
And others have both.
And others have both. And certain ones, like the women are the sort of elder leaders, and other ones the men are set up that way. And so it makes sense that they would have some of each in the different cultures that you meet in this game, because it's like
I will praise them
almost like a societal reset button, right?
Yeah, I will praise them on the having a handful of different societies.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the Nora, the tribe you're part of, shun modern technology. They'll only destroy machines and take their parts to use as armor, but they don't build anything.
Right.
It's like, and they don't go delving into ancient ruins, whereas the Ossurum are kind of like the metal workers who take old technology and build it into new things. So they have like metal armored suits and giant cannons and stuff. And then the Carja and the Shadow Carja are kind of like religiously governed society where they follow the teachings of the sun. And the previous king was basically kidnapping other members of other tribes and sacrificing them to the sun to keep his power. And then he got ousted by his own son, who's the now king. And then the Shadow Carja kind of are following his other son, but he's like 11.
I thought he was even younger than that. I mean, he looks super young, but I think
maybe he was 8 or 9 then. Well, he's a young child. Then,
yes,
we'll say, still with his mother, but they're basically using him as a figurehead, and it's the church that's in charge.
Correct. It's like they want it to be the way it was in the old king's reign, where they're still sacrificing people and are very racist. Whereas the new Sun King wants to forge alliances between the different tribes
and be more liberal.
And not kill people.
His ideas of stuff seems more like a meritocracy than anything else. Like, you should have positions based on how capable you are of doing them.
Right. Which is cool. And so there's that, and then there's the Banuk tribe as well. Oh yeah,
I forgot about the Banuk.
Who are basically like, they believe that machines have spirits, and they kind of worship the machine spirits, the machine gods.
Yeah.
And then we know of at least one other tribe that we didn't really get to know, the Reavers.
From the south. There's like one woman that's part of the like prisoner quest thing.
Yeah. And so they apparently believe that they believe in power, and they gain power by eating or drinking the blood of their enemies.
Yeah.
And so,
and like, if you defeat them in battle, they expect you to do the same, to like take their energy on. And I'm like, no. No, just die. Yeah.
So we don't really know a whole lot about them, but they were sort of introduced. So
cool.
You have all these different societies, and it's cool. Again, it's cool that they chose to put you in the Nora tribe, because the Nora tribe doesn't have a lot of contact with the others. And so it makes sense, again, like why you would be learning about these different tribes and who they are and how they operate, because
it's kind of like you're in an isolationist tribe and also isolated from the isolationist tribe because you're an outcast. So it's like double don't know anything.
Exactly. You don't really know a whole lot about your own tribe because you're an outcast, and you don't know a whole lot about other tribes because your tribe like forbids people to go outside of their borders, basically. Like,
and if they leave the borders, they're
outcast. Yeah, exactly.
Or they're like even worse than outcast. They can't even come back.
Right.
They're like just gone.
Yeah.
Unless you're made special or given special permission.
Given special permission to leave.
The proving doesn't end well.
Right. Well, I mean, it does and doesn't. So the proving itself ends well because you win and you prove yourself as like being worthy to be a tribe member.
And also find out information.
Mm-hmm. However, after the proving, like directly as it's ending, you're attacked by these people.
Yeah.
And you don't really know who exactly they are, but they all have these focus things as well. And so you recognize that they have focuses like yours, but they're a little different than yours because they're a different color. And
different color to yours usually means bad.
Yes. And so they're attacking. They seem to be after you in particular.
Yeah, and the reason behind that is you look very similar facially to another lady.
Yep. and you don't know who that is.
No.
At first.
At first.
And so you're about to get killed. Well, you kill a bunch of them, because I killed a lot of them. But then the leader of that group, and you don't know who he is at first, but you find out later his name is Helis.
Yes, and he's a member of the Shadow Carja.
He's a member of the Shadow Carja, and specifically a sect called the Eclipse.
Yeah. Which
we find out more about later. But he almost kills you. He has his knife to your throat, and then he hesitates because, so this is a point of the story that comes up again later, and it's cool that they mention it because it's like a lot of times the hero survives for no real reason, in these stories. It's like the hero survives because the other person,
they're the hero,
because they're the hero and they have to, and so therefore when they get into a perilous situation, the other person just doesn't take the opportunity to kill them when they have the chance. And that happened here, but they bring it back up again later and talk about it, so I think that's cool. But
he also does get shot through the collarbone with an arrow by your adopted father, Ross.
Yes, that's true.
Rost, sorry, I want to call him Ross, but it's Rost.
Rost.
Like rust.
Yes.
Alloy and rust. But anyway, and he manages to save you by throwing you off a cliff as an explosive goes off, and Ross perishes sadly. But he's the mentor, and it's a trope, and
that has to happen because.
But also the fact being is, I don't think you would have seen him again anyway, because he didn't want to have contact with you once you became a member of the tribe, because he's a very conservative Nora, even though he's outcast.
Right,
he follows the tribe teachings. Mm-hmm. So he would have you effectively talk to him in conversations and say, I'll come in secret, you don't need to talk to me, I'll break the rules, and he doesn't want that for you. So he's keeping an eye on you while you do the proving, but I would think if he'd have survived, that afterward he would just disappear into the wilderness and be gone, so that you couldn't find him.
Right, but that may not happen, though, because afterwards you are made a seeker, because you are trying to figure out how to get into what they call the All-Mother in their mountain.
Yeah. And it scans you.
And it scans you and says that the archival data is corrupted or something like that. Yeah,
the Alpha Registry is corrupted.
Yep.
And but it's weird because when they scan you, it goes, you are 99.37% the same as this woman.
Yeah.
That looks like you. And you and I just instantly went, clone. She's a clone.
Yeah.
She's a clone.
She's a clone.
Spoilers, she's a clone.
She's a clone. And yeah,
because there's no way you could be anything other than a clone with that amount of DNA similarity.
Yeah, exactly. It couldn't be anything else. Not really. And so she doesn't know that, though, because they don't know anything about DNA. And so they just think that it's like, oh, you look 99.47% like this person or whatever.
Exactly.
And so yeah.
She becomes a seeker, which effectively means she can go beyond the borders of the Nora but still be accepted as a tribe member.
Yeah. So I'm thinking if Rost had survived and she became a seeker, she could talk to him and that wouldn't be against the rules.
That's true, but he may have already disappeared and not know that.
I guess that's
so. You might meet him somewhere else.
I guess that's true.
Maybe.
But the point is, he did die, and so we'll never know what could have happened.
Well, then the point being is, if he shoved you off a cliff and he lived, he probably would be there to, make sure you're all right.
Yeah, so he'd probably know that you were made. Because he was watching you anyway, and he wouldn't... You know that he would have lived. If he had lived, he wouldn't have stayed away forever.
No, he
would have been watching you. He would have been watching you in secret and whatnot, just like he was watching you in secret for the proving, because he's effectively your father. He loves you.
He is your father. He's your adopted father. He's legally binding father.
Yeah, he's your dad, and he loves you, and he's not going to not watch your shining moment of glory. You know?
True. Yeah, and also to make sure that you don't, die. But so you're sent out to try and find a way to get into the All-Mother, is what they call it, but it's effectively a bunker.
Yeah.
But we don't know what's behind the door at this point.
Right.
So
And you find out that that's where you were found when you were a baby. So you asked them about your mother because that was your reward or whatnot. And the head matriarch tells you that you just showed up one day outside the door of the All-Mother. And she and some of the other members of the one other member of the matriarch circle, there's three, but there's her, there's the one who thinks that you're cursed, and then the one other one is what I was meaning.
And I think
they
the
agree
reason
that
she
you're
thinks
okay, that you're like
the reason
a
that
blessing.
The reason that she thinks you're cursed is because isn't there like a giant like claw thing coming through the ceiling?
There's
from a machine
metal
that was
devil
stopped,
is what they call them.
is what they call them.
Yeah,
they're actually titans, aren't they?
Yeah, they're called. Yeah, they're officially called titans, but they're these big, like, what are they, squid-looking things? Because they're always big squid-looking things.
To me, they look like Reapers.
They do.
From Mass Effect.
They do.
They're effectively Reapers.
They are.
To me.
They are.
But anyway, so there's like this big metal claw through the ceiling, and it's like the All-Mother's there, and Evil Claw Monster is there, and it's like, are you of All-Mother or are you of Metal Devil?
Right.
So Tirsa, the like nice one, who's cool, she's like, nah, she's All-Mother. Then the other lady just kind of sits on the fence and agrees with one or the other, depending on who she feels like.
I think she agrees mostly with Tirsa because what was her name? Lansra is the one who hates you and thinks you're a curse from the Metal Devil.
And then there's also that tribe leader guy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you're an outcast. You should be drowned.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I thought this was the latrine with you guarding it, and you slammed the door in his face.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, those two. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Just very, very prejudiced, and it's funny. Like, you have a society of people who make it so that, like, people within their own society are treated as less than human, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, pretty terrible, but it's how their society works. So.
Yep. So we end up going to Meridian, which is the capital of the Karja.
In order to try to figure out what's going on, because how do we know to go there? Because
that's where Orlin, the guy that basically showed your image through his focus to the Shadow Karja.
Yes, that's how they saw
and you're trying to figure out where he has gone, and his house is in Meridian.
Right, the capital of the Karja.
So you go to Meridian, you find out that he's at a dig site, and you also find out that one of the other guys that was at the proving is a
Oseram?
The one that I can never remember.
It's not Orzammar.
It's not, because that's Dragon Age.
It's Oseram. Yep.
Oseram, yeah. So you meet him at your proving and get on fairly well, and he says, come and visit me if you come to Meridian. So you go and speak to him and find out that there's been some trouble with his family, and his sister's dead. But he wants you to investigate the crime scene with your focus. So it kind of like splits the main story at that point.
Right. And I mean, and basically the side story for that is just, you go, you investigate, you find out she's not really dead. There are these people who are a faction of the Oseram who don't believe that they should be working with the Karja, because when the new Sun King took power, he allied with the Oseram. And so now the guy's sister, Aaron's sister Ursa, was their the head guard for the Sun King.
Vanguard.
Yep, the Vanguard for the Sun King. And so you find out that it's like these other Oseram folks who follow this guy named Derval want to start to reignite conflict between the Oseram and the...
They just want to destroy the Karja.
Yeah, they just...
They feel that there's blood on their hands. they should be made to pay for it.
Correct.
So you find out that he's developed a new weapon and used it to stun her and kidnapped her, but she's still fairly badly injured.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's been basically torturing her, right?
Yeah, because there's a whole love triangle thing going on between him, Ursa, and the Sun King.
Yeah,
but it's not reciprocated. He wants to be with Ursa. She doesn't want to be with him. She and the Sun King want to be together, but they can't be because of religious politics and stuff.
Right.
So.
Yep. And so, anyway, you get there, you find her, she dies.
He tries to blow up the capital and fails through your intervention, and then gets sent back to be, I don't know, dismembered by cavalry or something.
Right.
Some terrible execution back in... What is their capital city called? The Oseram.
I don't know.
It's like... I want to say it's like Mistwater or something like that, but it's not. It's like high mountain spring thing. But anyway.
Metal City of Awesomeness, probably. So he gets taken back to be judged by the Oseram, because basically all of the Oseram who are not with him, which is the majority of them, want him dead. So you send him back to them, and now like the Sun King is kind of indebted to you for saving him and for saving Meridian, which is cool. As part of the next thing that you do for the main plot is you go and you investigate that dig site that Olin was at. You find him, you find out that he has been blackmailed basically by the Shadow Karja to work for them.
Into doing their bidding because they have his family.
Because they have his wife and child. And he is an Oseram guy, and he delves into ruins and stuff.
He's like an archaeologist, effectively.
Yeah, pretty much.
Archaeologist, salvage kind of.
Yeah, person. And so they want him because they're trying to dig up these ancient machines, which is interesting, and that's why you see a couple of new, like, quote unquote new machines that people haven't seen before, like the Corruptor, which is a machine that corrupts other machines and gets them to fight for it.
Yeah. And it was this point in the story that my brain went, I wonder if those Corruptors are older than the ones that look like animals. Because the animal ones, it's like they're just kind of milling around doing their own thing. And then the Corruptor ones, people are digging them out of the ground. Right. So I was like, so maybe they're older and that we're looking at different timescales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and because I think...
And they don't look like animals.
No, well, not
it's
really. Like, the Corruptors sort of look like scorpion things.
Well, they're called scarabs.
Yeah.
In their technical
that's right.
description. And I was like, they look
like a scarab, And then the other ones that they dig up that you find later are called Deathbringers. And they're
called Kopesh.
Mm-hmm.
Their designation is Kopesh.
Yeah, and they're just basically.
And for those who don't know what a Kopesh
turrets.
is, it's a like a long-handled axe sort of thing that I think was used by ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
it's like
so
that doesn't look
like that.
No.
So yeah, and then and they are made of different metal as well, or they look like different metal. So the Corruptors and the Deathbringers and the Metal Devils all look like it's like darker metal.
It's like black iron or dark iron or dark hardened steel.
Yeah, it's
and also they
metal.
have the ability to control other machines through a process called corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Which you've seen. That's why the Corruptors are called Corruptors, because they corrupt other machines.
Right.
And the corruption also does damage to you too.
Yes, and it's like this cloud of red energy, which we find out more about later. I think they called it the Swarm.
It's like nanites.
Yeah. That like
that's the way I think of it, as
stuff.
Organic matter.
and that's how it hurts
I
you.
guess
So
also, like, talking about corruptions, we haven't really even talked about the combat.
yeah, the combat. So the combat is basically like you have a spear, and so you can hit things with it, which is cool.
Yeah, that's your default melee.
Yep.
So that you can't change.
Yep. And then the other weapons that you get, they have what? They've got a bow and arrow, your regular bow and arrow.
Well, they have several different iterations of a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
they have
a regular one,
a regular one, a hunting one. Sorry, that is the regular one is the hunting one. Then they have the war bow,
right, which is more powerful and has more elemental.
The war bow is the element. The war bow's the like all elements, so it's ice, shock and corruption. Yep. And then the sharpshooter bow is it's the sniper, effectively. Yeah. That one has the more powerful
arrows,
like normal arrows,
and it also has tear blast arrows that will
and harvester arrows.
Yeah, that will tear stuff.
I never used the harvester arrows.
I didn't really either. What do they do?
They basically were very good at knocking like capsules off of enemies. So if you didn't want to kill them and you just wanted to nick their like blaze canister, you could knock it off.
Right, or if you wanted to tear off parts, like certain components.
But the best thing for doing that's the
tear blast. Yeah.
Or the hard point arrows on the normal. Because the normal bow had fire arrows, normal arrows, and hard point arrows. We're talking about the fully upgraded like shadow version.
Right, so, like, the best versions.
Because as you go through, you like have the green default one, which had normal arrows and
fire
arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as you get better ones, they have more
elements.
And then you get the different slings. So there's like an elemental sling that has like I think ice, fire, and shock. And then you have a blast one, which has different versions of explosives, which is kind of cool. I never really used it.
It was awesome. I never really used it until near the end either, but it just wrecked shit. That fully upgraded
Yeah, because it's explosive damage. Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, because the one that you get from doing the side quest.
Because.
Yeah, I never used it. Oh, I should have done.
It blows things up. It also has sticky.
And it also has trap
and proximity mines. Right, so you can lay traps. You can stick stuff to people or certain parts of the enemies, right? Or you can just blast things, and the blast things was my favorite, and it was very effective against humans. Just boosh, 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 and they're dead. So it was good.
Yeah.
So there's the slings,
and then there was the tripcaster, which is like a trip wire trap, effectively. That you could. I think there's like an explosive version of shock and fire.
Yeah.
The shock one was very good at stunning people, so you could run in and stab.
Yes, and then the fire thing was good for things that are weak to fire, because it would create this like line of fire where it was that would give them continuous damage, and it would set them on fire if they're sitting in it.
So the different elements worked like fire would set them on fire and burn them for a certain amount of time. Ice would freeze them and make it so that they would like susceptible to damage more easily. Shock would stun so that they'd like fall over.
Yeah.
And there was like an ability that you could get that you could do like a strike on them with the spear when they were stunned.
Right, like a critical hit.
Like a critical hit. And then explosive was obviously boom explosive, does a lot of damage. Yeah. And then like the Terror Blast ones, they're effective at like removing certain parts. Because the enemies have like armored parts, and then certain enemies have special parts, like the Grazers and the Striders have like blaze canisters on their back that you could
shoot off, so then you could use that to create explosives or fire arrows.
Or you could blow them up. If you knock the casing off and then set fire to them, it would create an explosion that was massive, like a flaming fireball that would set other ones on fire that were next to
Yeah.
him.
Which is cool.
And then, the rope caster that you could tie things down with, which I thought was clever. I never really used
I used it a little bit on the Glinthawks because I hated them
it. With a passion.
But I didn't really use it on much else, honestly. But it is good to like be able to immobilize things.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the variety of weapons in the game worked pretty well depending on what playstyle you wanted. So like I think I used the normal bow, the sniper bow, the trap, and the elemental sling.
Yeah. And I used all those things. I used the blast sling more toward the end, and I did use the war bow some as well. But it didn't. Sometimes it was hard to get the elemental effect on certain things.
Yeah, I ended up with, when I was using the war bow for a little bit, I ended up, because there's an ability where you can knock 3 arrows at once. I was effectively shooting 3 ice arrows at things to about like 3 or 4 times to just get them to freeze. Whereas I could fire 2 or 3 elemental slingshot
and it would freeze
ice, and it would freeze them. So I was using that against the Thunderjaws to make them easier to kill.
And I liked that you could use the tear blast arrows to tear off components, and a lot of the bigger enemies had guns on them. So like the Ravagers,
the Thunderjaw and the Ravager.
The Ravagers were basically like sawtooths, which are like saber-tooth cat type things. But they had a cannon
with a lightning cannon. Yeah, it's like a lightning
cannon on the back. There. And so you could tear that off and then use it against them and everything else, and it all died.
Yeah. And then the Thunderjaws had 2 disc launchers on their shoulders. Wow, above their back legs, because they're like T-Rexes, but they've only got 2 legs. Which is effectively a T-Rex because their arms are so small anyway. But they also, it seemed like they had those lightning guns at the front on their jaws, but I don't know if I ever managed to strip one off.
I don't know that I did either. I don't know if you could.
Because what I do is use the Terror Blast arrow or the Hardpoint arrow to knock the disc launcher off, freeze it, and then use the disc launcher on it when it was frozen, and you could tear enough of the armor off that you could see the core and then blow it to bits, and it just wrecked.
It was very cool. I love the Thunderjaws. I think they were my favorite enemy. I liked them a lot.
Yeah, same. I like them too. I guess we could also talk about, like, there were so many different robotic animals.
Yes.
Like, you had the Striders, the Chargers, and the Broadheads, which you have once you progress far enough in the story, you have a overcharge device on your spear that you could take the enemy over with, and you could basically turn them into a mount that you could ride.
So it was like a horse, a ram, or a bull that you could ride, right?
The ram one was amazing.
Yeah.
There was this bit where I was fighting, I think it was 2 sawtooths fairly early on in the game, and getting utterly destroyed, and then one of them just explodes. And I'm like, okay, what just happened? My Charger's walking down the path through the wreckage like, I did it, I helped you. He'd rammed him from behind and just completely destroyed him.
That's amazing.
I think he must have knocked his blaze canister off the back. So, different... I think also I also like the Ravagers as well.
Yeah. I like the Ravagers
just
too. Because I like being able to knock their guns off and use it.
That's exactly why I like them.
And they were beast if you overloaded them, overcharged them, if you took them over.
Override. That's what I was trying to think of, not overcharge. Override.
If you overrode them.
Do you know why I was thinking of overcharge?
Yeah, because Sunset Overdrive.
Damn Sunset Overdrive.
So if you overrode them and got them to fight for you, which you could do to pretty much all of the machines except for the corruptors and deathbringers.
And the Deathbringers.
Um,
If you'd even have been able to get close enough to a Deathbringer, because those things were
yeah,
nasty.
they were. So yeah, you could override any of the other ones and make it fight for you, and that was very cool. So having a Ravager fighting for you was amazing. So
because there was like these challenge areas that you'd go to get sunlight medals. They were called hunters.
Gatherings, hunters.
Yeah, hunting grounds.
Yep.
Hunting grounds. So you'd have to do the challenges in a certain amount of time to get different versions of sun medals. So it was like half sun, full sun, and blazing sun was the best. And I quite enjoyed those because they were different.
Yeah.
Like each location was different. Like one of them was use the environment against the enemies, so you'd like knock logs down on top of grazers, which are like these like giant elk deer things, or get them to run into traps and set them on fire and such. And then like another one was to blow the canister off the back of one of the striders to make it so that it would explode and then do damage, like area of effect damage
other ones.
to other ones. So that was like the elemental one.
Yep.
And
then
there was the sneaky one
where you had to sneak up on different enemies, and you had a stealth strike. I really liked the stealth, actually.
So did I. Apart from when I walked into one of the stalkers' damn trap line things and they came running over, and I was like, no, leave me alone.
Yeah, those stalkers were annoying. They could go invisible. They had a cloak mechanism on them.
Yeah.
And they left these little mine things that like would go like a flare almost that would go up in the air.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, over here, there's some dumbass wandering through the jungle.
And you're like, oh, I was trying to be sneaky.
Those little watchers as well, which you thought were like cute velociraptors,
and I was like, so cute to me.
They were cool. I wouldn't say they were cute to me, but they were cool. Like their function is effectively like I thought of them as meerkats, where they're just like on the edge of groups of things looking around like, where are you? Where are you? I know you're here somewhere. It's like, I'm not here at all. Shh. Don't make me stab you.
Yeah. But they had good stealth mechanics where you could like sneak to these bushes, right? And when you were in the bushes you were hidden unless they'd seen you already.
The game's like, oi, there's sneakable bushes over here. We're gonna make them glow
they had a
gold
little sparkle
so that you can't miss them.
So that you knew which things you could hide in, which was good. And they weren't really bushes; they were more like tall grass. And
it wasn't like Assassin's Creed where you're hiding in
right, and so you could go through patches of tall grass, and then you could also get an upgrade to one of your skills that allowed you to like be more sneaky. So you could run past things, and
it was like silent running,
alert as much. And you could also put modifications on your clothing and stuff so that you could be sneakier too. So
yeah, I got a really good like purple, which is a high level sneak boosting modification right at the start of the game, and I didn't change it. That's
amazing.
It had like plus 24% sneak, plus 17% ranged, and like plus 10% frost resistance, and I was like, well, I'm not going to need to change this for a while. And I never did, because I never found anything better.
And then they had the different like purple outfits that you could get that had different effects on them. So there was one that was like the Nora Stealth Hunter that had high stealth on it already. There were ones that had high protection against basically each type of damage. So one that was against frost, one that was against corruption, one that was against fire, and one that was resistant to
I think
shock.
the corruption one was the Banuk one. And then the one that was like ranged was the Oseron. There was also a couple of Karja ones. There was one for fire. There was also another one I liked for the Karja that didn't have any extra protection, but it gave you 3 modification slots instead. So that one was you could more tailor. I think the one that I ended up running around with was the physical protection Nora one that had like the metal like machine plates on it. I really liked that one because some of them had really weird headdresses that like covered too much of her
or it
face,
made her look like she had like horns on the top of her head, and it was weird. So yeah, I fashion sold it a little bit. I probably wore that same one.
So did I,
because it was just like a red headband with a little piece on the front. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I liked that.
I love that. I know we've kind of gone off on a tangent away from the story, but I felt like we needed to kind of talk about the mechanics of the game as well.
We did. So, but yeah, obviously the mechanics worked well. I thought the weapons were interesting. There was a good variety of them. They had upgrades, and you could also modify your weapons too, so that they did more damage, or they did more of a certain type of elemental damage.
Yeah, I think my like elemental sling, I managed to get augments that did like plus 40% of each element that it used. So I had one for fire, one for shock, and one for frost, and that helped so much later in the game, especially against those storm birds. Because there's been like slow motion, because you could effectively get a mini slow mo upgrade from the like tech tree, and the tech tree was great too. It's like it had a bunch of different skills. You needed to get all of them to get a trophy. Yeah. So we did. But I'd also liked basically uber leveled early in the game by doing a bunch of side stuff and just hunting. The hunting mechanic worked so well that I had a lot of the skills before the end of the game. But it's really nice to be able to summon a mount wherever you are in the world.
Without having to override a new one or like go find a herd of striders or whatever. Yeah, that was good.
Exactly. Yeah, that was cool. And like being able to stealth kill stuff and notch 3 arrows and run without, because it got to the point in the game where I had so much stuff in my inventory I didn't want to fight anything more because I was like, I can't pick anything up. So it's like, now I have to run through these crocodiles or snap jaws, and I'm like, please leave me alone.
So yeah, the mechanics I think worked perfectly well. The only thing that I wish that it had was a lock on for the melee, but it worked well enough without
I didn't have too much trouble with that, but I can understand why, some people would find it easier. There is a weapon we forgot. If you do the Hunter's Lodge side quest stuff, you basically get a shotgun version of the Terror Blaster. And that thing is amazing at stripping armor off stuff. You just walk up to it and go, because there's these like giant bull things called tramplers that are just completely covered in armor. I shot it twice and it was effectively bald. There was no like armor left on it. It was just like just a machine with no armor, and I was like, oh, bless. So I blew up the giant barrel thing underneath it that sets it on fire, and then it died.
I never really used that.
And there's also the Rattler.
I used it a couple of times.
I used it once.
To just try it out, but I never really.
I was like,
it was not in my wheel.
And there's also the Rattler, which we forgot, which is like the
I never
shotgun
even bought one
arrow firing thing. I used it. It was good against people, but it was so inaccurate at range. I was like, I can't give up one of my other slots for this, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, that was the only one that I never even bought one of. So yeah. Weapons were good, mechanics were good. I do wish it had a little lock on for melee, but it was fine without. And I did like the upgrade you could get to your melee, so that when you like did a heavy attack on something, it knocked it over and stunned it, and then you could do a critical follow up, which was cool. So mechanics worked well. So where were we with the story? Right? I did want to say that when I noticed early on in the game that there weren't any big animals around, and there were the big robots, and I was like, so it's almost like these big robots have replaced all of the big animals. And I wondered about that, and I was like, well, is that because all of the big animals got killed during the apocalypse thing?
Yeah.
And these bots sort of took their place, and it was like their design seemed to suggest to me both function, because animals have evolved for millions of years. Well, I don't know. lots of years. Animals have evolved for lots of years to...
What, in our time now?
In our time now. Millions of years, that's what I thought.
Millions. Millions of years is
in
fine.
order to like be perfectly adapted to the environments that they live in. So like, you know, why would you not build a machine to copy that design?
Exactly. Yeah. When you said that to me, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, because that's something I'd missed.
And so it was like functional, but it also seemed to be kind of like, well, these things are gone. Our robots can be an homage to them, sort of, because they've all gone extinct.
Yeah.
And it was cool because that was actually correct, as we found out later in the game, although not quite how I was thinking it was going to be. But,
yeah. So, I think in the main story, we'd got as far as, finding Olin, finding out about the corruptors, and finding out that the Eclipse were bringing them back, but it seemed like they were working for somebody.
Right.
And then I think the next point in the story is that you go to one of the like other ruins further north to find out like information on what had happened.
Right.
Or like who your mother was. Effectively, like there's this old ruin, there could be more information. And I think this is the point at which you meet Silence.
Yeah.
He talks to you once you've talked to Olin.
Yep.
So he's, at this stage, an enigmatic character.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know who he is. It feels like your interests are aligned at this point, but I would say I never trusted him through the entire game.
Well, because it seemed like he was using you to get information.
Something.
Yeah.
So he basically guides you through the majority of the rest of the game.
Yes, because
for the main story.
He seems to know a little bit more than you do, but he's also using you to find out more information because you can go to places that he couldn't get to because
so
of who you
get to the next bunker
mm-hmm.
and you walk up to the door and we're like, oh no, another door. This is going to be... Welcome, Dr. Elizabeth Sobek. Please come in, is effectively what the door says to you.
Yep.
You are late for a meeting with this other person 30,000 days ago, or whatever it was. So it's like, okay, so we're Elizabeth Sobek,
mm-hmm.
is what we find out.
And then we're like, so who is Elizabeth Sobek?
So you go into the facility, and I'm right in thinking this is the one where you find out what the corruptors are, what the Warbringers are, and what the Metal Devils are.
Yep. You find out that the corruptors were the Scarabs. Because, I think this is the one where you find out about Pharaoh Industries.
Yeah, this is Pharaoh Industries. So Pharaoh Industries, also through little nuggets of information that we found through collectibles,
mm-hmm.
it seemed like in the past that there were many different companies vying with each other to make robots, to fight wars, take over parts of the planet, to basically integrate them into everyday life as well. Like there was one about a robot cafe that
mm-hmm.
you could go to, and it was just served by robots. So it seemed like robots were a big part of the civilization that came before.
Right.
And you then find out that Pharaoh Industries have built at least 3 militarized robot platforms. The Corruptors, which look like kind of scorpions,
mm-hmm.
but they're called Scarabs. The Warbringers?
Deathbringers.
I don't know why I want to call them Warbringers. Anyway, Deathbringers, which are Kopesh, and then
which are basically these big mobile turret platforms.
Yeah, they really are. They literally have missile launchers on the top, machine guns on the sides, and do they have like a laser eye
beam
thing at the front?
Yeah.
Thing
somewhere.
Basically death.
Yeah, they're just death machines. They're death
you
bringers.
Literally find
That's an appropriate name.
You literally find the first one of those
at this site.
Site. I made the connection between what they were because I found a derelict one in the jungle and I was like, that's got to be a death bringer because it looked like a mobile weapons platform. Yeah. And I was like, it's got to be that. And I was right. And then the
Titans?
Yeah. Are they called Titans? I thought they were called something else that began with an H, but
Oh, maybe they were.
They're like a Titan class
Or maybe,
of robot,
and
as in
maybe
they're huge.
Oh, what were they called?
It wasn't like Helios or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
No.
But I think you're right. They did have another name. Titan was the class.
We've also forgotten that you find out that the antagonist behind your like attempted death
was Helis.
To kill you was called Hades.
Oh yes, you find out that Helis is working for Hades. Correct.
Yeah. Before that, because Silence
tells you. Yeah.
So at this stage in the game, you and I were like, who is Silence? Is he an AI?
Yeah, because you only hear him over your focus, and then you can see like a projection of him over your focus, and it would have made sense for him to be an AI, and like maybe he was working for Hades, maybe he was Hades, maybe he was a different AI, maybe he was someone who was left to like guide you. We didn't
Custodian.
know.
Yeah, so you go through the Pharaoh Industries facility, find out that there's these very old at this stage, military robots.
Yep. And you also find out that Elizabeth Sobek worked for them for a while, but then left the company after they started creating these war machines.
Yeah. And she
didn't agree with that.
And she returns to talk to the guy in charge that I can't remember his name. But
Ted.
I'm going to call him Turnip Head Ted.
Yeah,
so,
Turnip Head Ted.
So
he was a turd.
God. Anyway, we'll reveal the nuggets of Turnip Head Ted as we progress.
We'll get there.
So you find out basically that there is a flaw in the programming of the Corruptors and Warbringers, and we'll call them Titans until we can remember what they're called. That basically means that they are no longer under the control of Pharaoh Industries. You also find out that Pharaoh Industries gave them the ability to absorb organic matter as fuel, and also to self-replicate. So it seems like the Titan class constructs are basically factories at this point, mobile factories. So you
mobile factories, and also death machines too.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They go in. They just because it talked about this one like part of the ocean or something where they got the last like herd of this certain type of dolphin or whatnot, and they just basically like shredded them all up and turned them into
paste
chum.
Wow, I didn't read that particular piece of information. Huh. Yeah. So basically,
and they just killed them, and they use it for fuel to like keep going.
Yeah. So this is the apocalypse. This is what started the end of the original civilization. Is these robots are basically going to wipe out all life on Earth.
Right. Because that's their purpose. They were designed to kill.
Yeah.
And the only thing that because they aren't like AIs. They're not self-aware.
No, they're not self-aware. They're just programmed computers that are running their programming. They're following orders. Right. Their orders are to kill. Their orders are to self-replicate. Their orders are to absorb biomass, to continue to self-replicate and kill.
To continue, to self-replicate and kill. And they consume all types of organic matter. So they consume plant life, they consume
bacteria,
they consume people. They consume the atmosphere.
Yeah. So basically, you find out that the world is going to be effectively turned into a barren rock in 400 days or something.
Something like that.
It's not a very long amount of time.
It's a few months. I think it's less than a year.
Elizabeth Sobek proposes a project which is called Zero Dawn. Mm-hmm. That at this stage we don't know what it is. Right. To effectively, what you think of is to stop the apocalypse or survive it or whatever.
Yep.
And obviously it worked because you're here.
Correct.
So something survived. but we don't know
we
what
don't
it
know
is.
how.
We don't know how they did it.
Right.
So,
and what they said was, at this point, they said that it was going to be a super weapon.
yeah, they're like,
right?
we'll call it a super weapon. We'll tell the general population it's a super weapon, but so that we can get them to fight for us. We're going to have to arm civilians, and they're going to have to lay their lives down for this project, because we just don't have time
for it to work.
We have to have X number of days, and we need people to fight for it, to stop, rear guard action, effectively. You take as many of the enemy down as possible to give us enough time to save humanity, to save the future, effectively.
Right. Yep.
So, after that, I'm trying to think where you go next.
After that, don't you go to the Shadow Karja place after that? I think so.
No. I know where you go next. He says, the place where Zero Dawn...
network.
Yeah, the place where Zero Dawn is located, or at least the place where you'll find information for it, is located within the Shadow Karja territory, and there's so many Eclipse agents within their numbers that you can't physically walk in because they'll see you and kill you. So you have to take down the focus network.
Right. Right, because Silence knows about the focus network, and he tells you that he
worked with the Eclipse.
He worked with the Eclipse,
and that he programmed their focuses, so he knows what to do to overload them.
Right. And so at this point you're like, okay, so you worked with them, but now you're not, and you don't really know
how
why.
far does this go, is what my brain was saying.
So it's more suspicious, but you don't have any other choice. No. You are allies of
the enemy of my enemy is my friend at this point. So you go in, you turn off the network. We don't really need to talk about that mission. You find out more about Helis. They had a lot of information about him at that location. Yeah, there's a bunch of audio files and things. Yeah. And you just find out that he's completely under the indoctrination of the Shadow Karja's kind of mentality. He's a religious zealot, is what he is. He is. And then you also find out who Hades is at this point. He is basically this red ball in a metal devil, in a metal devil, and it's okay, so that's who Hades is, because you have to hack a tallneck, and we didn't talk about tallnecks, but tallnecks are basically like these giant giraffes, but they're effectively like viewpoints from Assassin's Creed, where you hack them, reprogram them, and then you get the lay of the land information, and this one is being used to broadcast the wireless network for the focuses. So you destroy it, and then it effectively means that focuses can't communicate with each other. Right. That way, if someone who had a focus saw you, that it wouldn't be able to transmit that information back to Hades and back to Helis and everybody else who might because be those able people to identify you. The people don't know who you are, but if their focus sees you, that could identify you. Correct. Because the people who are the Shadow Karja, the Eclipse, are basically given as little information as possible. They're just told that you are a threat and you must be eliminated. And because they're the thing that they are worshipping tells them that. Yeah, effectively. Because in their mythology, there's there's dark shadow being that's the evil in the world, kind of. And they think that Hades is that. It leads them to believe that it's that, and that they're doing their god's bidding, kind of. Right. So they're now the Karja in shadow, and they want to overthrow the Sun Karja, the new regime. Right. So you go into the Citadel, which is the area the area where the Shadow Karja are, and go down into the base underneath at this stage, and find out what Zero Dawn is. Right, and it was cool that you went
through that area, because it was basically set up as because they talked about this at the previous base that we went to, that they were going to get this A team, right? Alpha team. It was going to
Alpha
be
team,
like
yeah.
the best of the best people, right?
Anyone
to
you
work on
need,
Zero
we get
Dawn.
them. Any resources you need, we'll give them to you. Because you basically force Faro Industries CEO to fund Zero Dawn.
Right.
You say
because
you have
you kind of guilt him into it, because it's like, look, you caused this.
You're going to end all life on Earth. You need to pay for the scheme that's going to save it, effectively.
Exactly.
I did love walking into that base, and then the hologram comes up.
Yep, and it's like, welcome.
And the guy who does the voice for the like military leader, he also narrates some Warhammer 40,000 audio novels that I've listened to, and I really like his voice, and I was like, I know who you are, and this is going to be awesome. And it's like, welcome to Project Zero Dawn. You have been led to believe that this is a super weapon. But it's not.
And he basically, the first presentation basically tells you that the apocalypse is happening and it can't be stopped.
Yeah. The apocalypse is going to happen. Life on Earth will be wiped out. We cannot do anything to stop this. But we can try and
endure or like preserve.
We can try and preserve and change what happens next.
Exactly. So
the apocalypse will happen, but we're going to do our best to make it so that we can effectively repopulate the Earth with people, with animals,
with Zero Dawn, right?
With Zero Dawn.
Because, and it doesn't tell you what Zero Dawn is during that first presentation. Basically, it's just like, and I really liked the way that this was set up, because you go through it as if you're one of those people that is being recruited to work on Zero Dawn. Yeah. And so you view the presentation, and it's like, you have that, it tells you, okay, we've told these people that we're fighting to save our planet and to save our lives, but that's not going to happen because it can't be stopped. And I
like that because it wasn't a cliche. It wasn't like Deus Ex Machina. This is the magic thing that will mean that you will live. No.
Right.
This is the thing that will mean that your death will have been for a purpose.
Right.
It's like
you matter.
You can't save. That's it. You can't save the world that you're living in, but you can give it a future.
Right. Yep.
It's effectively. So before this, you and I were like, so is Zero Dawn an arc? Like, did they put people in an arc? And I was like, did they send it to space?
Right.
Because the Citadel and the Sun Ring is a launch pad for a spaceship. It's like a rocket launch pad.
It's an orbital launch, an orbital launch site. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's effectively like the Soyuz rockets that the Russians use. That kind of launch area. It's always like, did they send people to space? Is this the 100?
Right.
And I was like, please no.
Yeah. So it could have been that. It could have been. I mean, they had all these bunkers. And
I was
so
like,
it's like,
I think I said, was it the 100, or are we doing Fallout?
Or was it Fallout? Or was it something else where they? Because we know that. I mean, we knew that Aloy was a clone. Like, we knew that from very soon.
So we were
on.
Like, did they
clone people? Did they just like harvest DNA and plan to clone people after a certain period of time? Did they cryogenically freeze people? Like, what happened? And so we don't know.
So as you go through the facilities, as if you're on the same journey as the people that were coming in before.
Right. And then they have all these things where it was like in between that first presentation and the second one, they had like counselors evaluate people's mental health to make sure that they were okay to proceed.
I'm leaving now. I'm leaving. I don't want to be part of this. Please take your hands off me. I don't want to be here. And it's just like, just sit down.
Yeah.
You're the best in this field and you're doing this whether you like it or not.
Yep. And so, like, once you were recruited into Zero Dawn, it was like, you can't leave. Because they couldn't risk that information
the
getting
information
out to
being leaked
to the general public, because what they were basically doing was throwing the majority of the human beings left on the planet at these machines, knowing that they would all die,
also
just to slow it down.
I think
right?
I've also remembered that this mission, the reason why you're going there is because Silence tells you it's a way for you to open the door at All Mother.
Yes.
It's the thing
Yep.
you need.
As
much as finding out what Zero Dawn is, it's got the Alpha Registry.
It's got the Alpha Registry.
Because it's their headquarters.
Yeah.
I was like, that just suddenly popped back into my brain.
Yeah. So that's why you're going there. But
that's why you're going there. Also, as much to find out what Zero Dawn is, but also to get through that door.
Yes.
So, as you progress through, I think at this point you find out who, what Zero Dawn is, because then it tells you the different sections.
The thing. So you have the section where you learn that the apocalypse is happening, and that, what was it, Project Enduring Victory?
Enduring Victory is what they're getting the population to partake in to slow the machines down.
The machines down.
Basically, it's human speed bumps. Or speed humps, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's like basically throwing bodies into the meat grinder to slow it down enough so that you can get your project done before it reaches the building.
Right.
Effectively.
Exactly.
So you find out that Zero Dawn is a AI program that's set up to rebuild the planet once Zero Day, so that's the day at which all life is gone.
Yep.
Will be tasked with rebuilding the planet from its stocks of information and animal embryos and so on.
So it's basically like a it's a creation device. So it can terraform the world, the planet, and then begin repopulating it with different flora and fauna that are stored.
It's called Gaia. The main control system is called Gaia. And then there's subsystems below it that aren't AIs. I'd say they're like VIs in Mass Effect, where they have programming. And they're all named after Greek gods.
Yep.
So you find out that there's Apollo, which is the repository of knowledge, to be able to tell the new population about what happened in the past.
Right.
Then there's Hephaestus, which will build the machines necessary to terraform the world.
Yep.
There's the one that begins with E that I can't remember, that's the human embryo program. So that's embryo storage, caretaking of children, servitors and food, effectively, to raise a population of humans to maturity and then release them into the world.
Yep.
There's the thinking one as well, which is I guess that was Hephaestus as well, to how to design the machines to make it so that they serve their purpose.
Yeah. I mean, they have different ones, and they didn't say exactly what each one of them were, because they had
Artemis, that I can't remember what that one was for.
They had I think they had Demeter.
Yeah, I didn't see what Demeter was for.
They had a bunch of different ones.
There's Minerva.
Which was the cool one, because it was the one that... Because a different part of this was why couldn't they just find the code to turn the machines off? Right?
And it's basically because they're coded. It's I wouldn't say encoded, but...
It was a certain type of coding that I don't remember what it was, but it made it hard to break the code in order to...
So they said it would take them 500 years to break the code.
Yeah, and they didn't have enough time to do that, because we only had 4 months or something. Yeah. And so everyone would be dead by the time the code would be broken, but the AI would continue to work, and Minerva would eventually break the code, crack the code to turn off the death machines, and then broadcast that to turn them off. And they built these spires in order to send out the signals to do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of those. And then you find out that Hades
is also one of the programs.
Is also one of the programs.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not an AI.
Right.
Basically, Hades is there to, if Gaia effectively makes a mistake in trying to terraform the world back, he will reactivate, well, not even reactivate the machines that are there. He will take over, use Hephaestus to build machines to then destroy the world again.
Yep.
Wipe the slate clean and let Gaia start again. So it's like if you were building an Earth and suddenly you had the atmosphere of Venus occur. And it's like, we can't kind of send people out. So
yeah. Because it was like a contingency plan, right? So just in case something went wrong, because like, I mean, this is life and an ecosystem, and finding that balance they assumed would be tricky, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like we don't understand ecosystems even now, and we've had 100 years of modern science to do so. Right. So it's like, we can't expect Gaia to be able to figure this all out on her own.
In
she
one
needs
go.
To experiment.
Right.
So, with it being 1,000, like let's say 800 years since, I wonder if she did fail a couple of times.
Yeah. It's possible that she did.
And that Hades had to be implemented.
Yep. Because we don't know that, right? Like, we don't know whether the Earth has failed or whatever.
We don't know whether we're the first. Like, we're the first success, it seems.
Yeah.
But how many failures there were before.
Right. And at this point, I was also thinking, like, because you don't know what's going on 100% yet. And so it's like, why has Hades activated? Was Hades supposed to activate? Was this a malfunction?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Is something wrong with the world, or has it deemed there to be something wrong with the world, and therefore we're starting over? And so, like, programming has been implemented, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't know that at this point. But
yeah, so you find out what Horizon. You find out what Zero Dawn is.
Yep.
You find out what Hades is, or what he was, and then you also find the location of the Alpha Registry and download it into your Focus, and then, like in every good video game,
the villain
you get
bursts
ambushed
in, knocks you out. You don't even get a chance to fight him because it's in a cutscene. And there's
this bit I always remember. I was watching a Let's Play, and this guy's doing the Mages Guild quest for the for Skyrim, where you go into Labyrinthian and get the Staff of Magnus, and he's walking on the way out, and he's like, here's one of these moments where it's like, ho ho ho, hello travelers, I'll be taking the Staff of Magnus. He walks around the corner, and that guy comes in and goes, ho ho ho, travelers, I'll take the Staff of
Magnus now, thank you.
And he was like, I called it, I perfectly, because it's like just set up perfectly for it, and I was like, as soon as we're downloading the Alpha Registry, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, and because as soon as we went past the into the Shadow Karja location, and you saw that they had created a sun ring, which is something that came up, and we haven't talked about it, but it's something that came up in their talks about the Karja from the past.
Yeah.
The sun ring was this thing where they used to. It was almost like it was a gladiator arena.
It was like a Colosseum.
It was a Colosseum. That's what I was searching for.
Where you just chuck people in
with robots. Or to fight each other.
To sacrifice them to your god.
Yep.
The trouble with this game is there's so much going on.
There is.
That it's like, we are going to miss stuff.
Yeah, totally. But as soon as I saw that, so the Sun Ring was a thing that they talked about a lot earlier in the game when we were learning about the Karja and stuff. And you find out that, the Sun King was basically crazy and was sort of throwing people in there. Anybody who disagreed with him got thrown in the Sun Ring to get slaughtered by machines for people's entertainment, which is just sick. And also
but that's
part
what
of
the
our
Romans
history.
were like.
So
lovely, brutal individuals.
Yep. And so In any case, as soon as I saw that they had set one of those up in the Shadow Karja capital, I was like, we're going to fight in there. Yeah, we're definitely going to fight in there. That's going to happen.
And we did.
And we did. So you get captured by Helis.
He destroys your focus, which makes you think, you're like, oh no, the Alpha Registry's gone. This was all for nothing.
Right.
You go into the arena. You fight a monster. Well, you fight a machine.
You fight a behemoth machine, which is...
Behemoth.
What would we call that? It's like a
I don't know. It's like a giant rhino ram ox thing.
Yeah.
Chicken woman duck thing.
Yeah, it was I mean, it's a behemoth. It's a big ass machine that charges at you, and
To me, it was like somewhere between a hippo and a rhino.
Mm-hmm.
Like just big.
And
so you trick it into knocking down your stuff that's in the cage that you were in up the top, because it like drops you down from the roof into the arena.
Because this is fair. And put people down in there with nothing.
Yeah. So you destroy the behemoth. Then old Helis decides that he's going to be even more fair and send a couple of corruptors after you.
Yep.
And then something important happens, which is Silence
appears
and saves
busts in, saves you, and so we know that he's like
controlling machines, and he's also human.
So we know that he's human as far as we know, and also I just want to talk about Helis for a second. I thought that Helis was really well voice acted, and I thought he was a good antagonist. Like your second level antagonist, right? So he's not the main bad guy.
He wasn't stupid.
But he was like the next one down. And he wasn't stupid, right? Like he wasn't stupid evil. I mean, I don't even know if I would call him evil. He does evil things, but he believes that's what...
He believes in destiny. He believes he's destined to do these things, that his God has a path for him. Like, oh, the day that I wasn't able to kill you was destiny.
Like, it was destined to happen, and I wondered why I hesitated in slitting your throat, because,
everything before that, I'd never failed at anything, so why should I fail at this?
Right.
And it's because it's destiny, like, I'm destined to kill you now in this arena, this is where you die.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't happen then.
Right.
So, yeah.
He's very much one of those people who is like, he believes absolutely in his faith. And and everything that happens, he twists to fit his idea of what the world is and who he is and his destiny and his path and purpose in the world. And he's basically this like he makes himself have no weakness, right? Like there was this thing where in one of the earlier missions where you learn about him, and he talks about his wife and like their wedding night or something, and he realized like he was laying in a soft bed with this person that he, cared about, and that made him weak. And so he left and went and slept on the floor because he couldn't have anything that, made it so that he wasn't just absolutely stone cold, strong person. And so that's just how he's created himself as like, I am the instrument of God.
He basically sees himself as a weapon.
Yes.
Effectively. Mm-hmm. I am the Shadow's will incarnate. Yeah. Effectively.
I am the tool by which my God does things, basically. And it says who to kill, and they die. So...
So
he was
rescued.
He was cool in that scene. Anyway, you get rescued by Silence.
Yep, and you find out that Silence can control machines like you can, because he learnt to do it through you. Like he sees the device that you got off the corruptor and therefore builds one himself. Because that bit's really cool. He rides in. Yep. With he's on a strider with an extra strider. And then 3 Ravagers come in behind him and start shooting the crap out of the corruptors. Yep. I love that bit. I was like, yes.
It was great.
So you then find out that he made a copy of the Alpha Registry using the wireless network with your focus and gives you a spare focus. And you can go to the All-Mother now and find out what's inside. Yep. So We do.
So we do.
We're like, here's the Alpha Registry. Do you want to come in? Yes. Are you sure? Yes, for God's sake. We spent half the game trying to get here
But
to let me in the damn door.
before we do that, you find out that Helis has sent a bunch of Shadow Karja to basically slaughter your entire tribe.
Yes. So you have to fight your way through them to get to
the place where now everybody who is alive is sort of holed up in the what is it called? Mother's Watch? Mother's Heart?
Mother's Heart?
Embrace.
I think.
It's one of them. It's Mother's something.
I think it's Mother's Heart. I think.
Yeah.
Because it's like the heart of the community. It's like the heart.
Generally, people don't go there. Like only the matriarchs are allowed in that place.
Yeah, only the matriarchs are allowed in like the outer bunker.
Right.
So when you get there and you fight your way through Corruptors and Shadow Karja Eclipse forces and get in, you find out that Tirsa basically said, "Get everybody in here."
Yeah.
That can, be protected because
screw
it's
our
the safest
tradition.
place.
Like we have to save people. And thank goodness somebody has a brain. And it was also a cool little moment because a bunch of the people if you had helped some people during side quests and stuff, a bunch of those people are there. So a bunch of the people from the Nora tribe that you've communicated with are there, and you can kind of talk to them and chat with them about little snippets and stuff before you go and activate the All-Mother and go into the bunker. So that was cool. And Lenzra is like, "No, she's cursed. Don't let her do it." And everybody else is like, "Shut up."
And then Tirsa turns around and is like, "Fuck off, punch." Well, she doesn't do that. She was thinking it.
She was thinking it.
But anyway, so you go in and you find out that this particular bunker is where they stored the human embryos.
Mm-hmm. It was one of the cradle, and they called it like a cradle location.
Yeah, it begins with an E. Whatever goddess, it's like Eusebius, or I don't know, Euripides.
Something.
It begins. It's like EU something, but that's the program that was active where you were. So you go in, you see images of like the first people, effectively, but you find out there's certain doors that they weren't allowed to go through that should have been open to them.
Right.
So you travel through the facility, you find out about like what their lives were like, and that the function of that facility was to breed human beings to repopulate the Earth once it had got to a stage that it could support them. And then you go through the database area, and it keeps coming up with a hologram of a lady that's going, please access the Apollo program so that you can learn blah 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 blah. Error, Apollo not found, is what it keeps. I went through like about 7 or 8
and it was the same thing every time. That
nope,
same lady going, "Hello, welcome, this is an exciting day." Right?
This will be your first day of school.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And then you find out that the Apollo program, for whatever reason, we don't know whether it's this location specifically or like totally gone.
Right.
But the Apollo program isn't
right.
accessed.
It's like it's corrupted or something like that.
Yeah. So you make your way through the facility, and then you find a hologram of Gaia, the AI that was put in charge of remaking the world.
Right.
And you find out that an unknown signal from an unknown source basically hacked her and the programs and made it so that they all became self-aware as AIs, and that she lost control.
They basically like became unshackled, right? So they were programs.
Yeah, they're like unshackled AIs.
They were programs that were designed to run themselves, but with oversight.
And now the
oversight
oversight
is
is gone.
and they're not connected to her anymore.
There was something we did forget, and it was like 20 years ago, so around the time that Aloy was born, the machines started to be produced that people had never seen before. Like the Thunderjaws and the Ravagers and the Stormbirds and the Sawtooths and the Stalkers.
Like they were
like
more
before
deadly
that, it had all been
machines.
It had all been like machines, because you find out that the machines are built the way they are for what purposes they were supposed to do. So like the crocodile ones were built as water filtration systems to purify water.
Mm-hmm.
The stalkers, not the stalkers, sorry, the ones that look like deer,
grazers
were built to like purify grasslands and take toxins out. The stormbirds and the glinthawks were built for purification of the air and so on. So they were all serving a purpose. And you find out like once Hephaestus becomes self-aware, it seems to like think that humans shouldn't be attacking its machines, so it's building Thunderjaws and Ravagers and Sawtooths to try and deal with
the people who are
the
threatening,
that are effectively threatening, like destroying machines, taking their parts.
He's like, I don't like you breaking my toys, bitches. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you go into different cauldrons, that's where they build the machines and get different override codes for machines later on.
And that's how you can override the different machines.
And that's how you can override them, because they're being built in the cauldrons by Hephaestus. It's like, it's still being built by the same program, it's just that he's no longer under the control of God.
Right. And so he's creating more and more deadly machines.
Machines in response to humans trying to use machines, to harvest machines for parts and such. Then you also find out that Hades, when he becomes rampant, effectively, disappears from where he was being held and hacks Gaia again to make it so that her alpha registry at the Cradle facility gets corrupted. So she attempts to clone Dr. Elizabeth Sobek, which is you're the clone, to go and rectify the problem. Then she realizes that the Alpha Registry is being corrupted, and the only way for her to stop Hades gaining control of the terraforming equipment he would need to destroy the planet is for her to blow herself up in the Gaia Prime control facility, so that the infrastructure that would be used by Hades is no longer available. So as she's putting that into motion, he hacks her, destroys the Alpha Registry. I don't even think he did it on purpose. It's just like a portion of the corruption damaged it.
He was just basically taking over, and it was destroying her.
Yeah. Well, it was destroying like parts of her control, and it just happened to be something that was damaged. Yeah. So she said, but you are Elizabeth Sobek, and you will find a way to get in here.
Yeah.
Which we did. So you find out that where Gaia is based is a place called Gaia Prime. And you also find out that you need to stop Hades before you can think about maybe trying to restore Gaia.
Yep. Because
you talk to Silence, and he says, well, you could probably, Gaia wants you to restore her, but there's no point in doing that if Hades is still a threat.
She says that too. Gaia says that.
She says that too.
She says, you need to destroy Hades before you can reinstall me or reinstate me, reactivate me, because he'll just take over again, or potentially it could even be worse. So,
well, basically, she doesn't want you to bring the facility back online, because if you do, he will seize control of the equipment.
Right. So, and that was cool. I think, and this happened, I think, in some of the missions throughout, because you see them making Gaia, and you see Elizabeth talking to her, and like Gaia learning and that kind of thing. And a piece of it that I liked was that she taught Gaia to have emotions. You know,
because her mother had taught her.
Well, I mean, we
to
find
have
that
emotions
out later, but it's
but that's not like a super important story.
No, it's not. But it's more like because she knows that it can't be run out of pure logic. Like in order,
it needs to care.
It needs to care about life, which I thought was cool. Which is why the whole thing about the animals, right? Like the function of the machines serves its purpose, but it also
looks like an
serves
animal.
the like a sentimental purpose. It's like an homage to these life forms that went before. And I really liked this section where Elizabeth was talking to Gaia, and she was talking about, she learned about an extinction that happened in the past to the dinosaurs, that extinction event, and how it made her sad.
Yeah. Because
and I thought
she cared. Cool. Like, all of that life gone, and she realizes it's happening again. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I guess she didn't have any power over the dinosaurs' extinction, but she can at least... Yeah. And that may be why, like, also Hephaestus builds Thunderjaws.
Some of the machines
look like dinosaurs.
Yeah, look like dinosaurs.
Because
like the little Watchers look like little raptors, and the Thunderjaws look like dinosaurs. Yeah, like it's some of that sentimentality, right?
Yeah, because she cares. Mm-hmm. Which is cool. So you, I think the next place you go to is Gaia Prime, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So you go to Gaia Prime.
You might fight a storm bird if you hadn't killed it already.
Like I did in the story when it told me.
Yeah.
Like I went there when I was about level 20. And the game goes, I shouldn't be here yet.
Yeah.
Literally
she literally says, I don't think I should be here. And there's this cutscene with the storm bird coming down, and then you fight it, right? Because you're trying. There's a collectible up there, and we did the collectibles before we finished. The game.
I was also making sure there wasn't a village up there.
Yeah. Some kind of grit in my mouth. Sorry.
Lovely. So you travel to Gaia Prime.
And go to Gaia Prime.
You
can get into the facility now that there's a ladder that wasn't there when we collected collectibles earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're going to block you off from being able to reroute the story, basically. Like, you're not going to find this information out before you're
Precisely.
So, which is good.
The reason you go to Gaia Prime is to find the means to stop Hades.
Mm-hmm. You needed an override code because something else that you learn is that they programmed like an override, like a kill switch.
Into all of the systems, into Gaia. And that's thanks to Turnip Head that got put in. And Gaia herself basically says, he's right, I need an off switch. So... Yeah, you have to go in to find the master override code device. Yep. So you travel through the facility, and it's basically like the outer facility is destroyed where Gaia blew herself up, but the inner core is like shielded.
Yeah.
Or like not shielded, but built so it can withstand a blast of that magnitude.
Yeah.
So you go into the facility and you go and pick up the override code. I don't think there's much else important.
Oh no, this was it was important. I think it was important stuff. So this was also where you learn what happened to the alphas.
Oh yeah, sorry, that is the important bit. I forgot.
And a little bit that we found out at some of the other places was that in addition to there were a couple of initiatives that were going on, right? So you had Zero Dawn, which was the Gaia program to re-terraform and repopulate the Earth. There was also something that went into space as well. Yep. There was...
I'm trying to remember what it was called.
I forget what it was called. But it was some other program, that it took some people and genetic material and an alpha version of the Apollo program into space.
I missed the alpha version of the Apollo.
Yep. And basically they got, so that was like their second
yeah, basically that was
contingency plan.
Wasn't that programmed to come back at some point if Gaia failed?
Right.
So it might still be in orbit, or it might be like 1,000 years.
They said it failed. So
it failed.
They got some feedback from it that said it was destroyed or something.
Or disabled.
Or
maybe.
disabled, or something happened that was non-viable anymore. So they said Zero Dawn's our last chance.
Was that part of a collectible that you read?
It could have been.
I don't remember that part. I know that they sent something into space, but I didn't realise that. Cool. So that's a nugget of information I missed.
Yep. So that was, and they found out they got a communication from it that it was destroyed or disabled, or I forget exactly what, but they said that now Zero Dawn's our last chance.
Yeah.
And
all eggs in one basket.
Yeah. And they also built these bunkers or shelters for the alphas, so the alphas could basically choose. The alphas were people who were basically experts in a certain subject, so they had.
Hence, they were invited in to work on
Zero Dawn. And so they had some people who needed to program it, some people who needed to know about biology and ecology and stuff like that.
Engineering, software, so on.
All of that stuff to help build the actual programs. They also
and languages
had
too, because they had Apollo was 4 different languages, wasn't it?
It was a ton of different languages. It was
the one woman I remember reading about was working on 4 of them. She was doing English, Spanish, Cantonese, and French, I think.
Yep. And then they were cataloging several hundred different types of languages, and they were they said that program was on schedule because unfortunately they weren't able to get as many languages as they hoped because Papua New Guinea had been destroyed completely.
And then there was the one where they were getting the embryos in and stuff, and it was coming down to 0 hour, and the guy was like, oh, well, I guess this is a little bit further on than where you're talking about, because they were given a choice of they could live on within the bunker for a certain amount of time, or they could commit suicide.
Right, well, because basically, this happened at the Zero Dawn site where you found out what it was. They were, after that presentation, there was another debriefing, and they had counseling and whatever. Because obviously, finding out that your world is ending and there's nothing you can do about it could definitely mentally shatter a person.
Yeah, your psyche. No, the piece of information I found was at Gaia Prime about this guy
who took the medical euthanasia option. Right.
No. He's talking about his partner, and he says, I can either try and get the birds of paradise in to the machine, or I can be with my partner when he takes the pill to kill himself.
Right.
And he rushes to try and do both, and ends up not being able to do either. The birds of paradise thing gets dropped and destroyed, and his partner goes without him.
Yep.
And he's if in an ideal world he would have been the person I would have stayed with for the rest of my life, and he's a bit pissed because he's one of the major ones. He's John somebody. I'm not sure what. Alpha.
Charles Robinson. Or one of them. He was one of them. And
he's one of the alphas basically. Yeah. So it's
So they have these people who are basically experts in their fields. They got them together. They and then they gave them, as an incentive, I guess, to work on Zero Dawn. They were given the opportunity because they were building this place called, I forget what it was called, Euphasia or something, where some people would be able to live out their lives. It was basically...
That Euphasia place is the cradle place. That's where some of the other people were.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't remember exactly where it was.
Because there were different numbers of survivors in different locations because some of them were working on the Cradle complex under the umbrella of Zero Dawn, and some of them were working in Gaia Prime, so there were survivors in both. And it's like, you can... Oh, there was another one as well, some piece of information I read where they said, like, we will open the doors for 20 minutes. If you want to leave and go home and die there, or, like, brave it and try and get home, you're more than welcome. If not, the nurse will be waiting in the cafeteria with your pills. And some guy was like, I'm not taking a pill, and he shoots himself. This is right at the start.
That's at the very beginning.
Like, we have no idea what's going on. It's like some guy shot himself against the wall.
It's like, you know that's when the apocalypse is happening and people are afraid that they're going to die.
Yeah. But we didn't realise that it's actually part of, like, Zero Dawn.
Yeah. Because what they did was they offered people a choice. So when they invited the alphas, it was like, well, now that you know what's happening, you can't leave because you'll destroy our project. But you can either work with us or be detained in jail until the end. Or you can choose to medical euthanasia, which is just basically killing yourself. Because you don't want to... The nurse
injects you.
Yeah, you don't want to live anymore. And you have like 48 hours to change your mind, basically. And I mean, I think it was cool. I really liked that part, because it seems realistic, right? Like, because some people would not want to live knowing that they were the only people left. Because they could live on until the end of their days, and they could get 2 of their family members or 2 people of their choosing to go there with them. And it was basically this place that, like, it had enough resources for them to be able to live 100 years. But then they were going to sterilize anybody who went there because they couldn't have kids because it couldn't support that.
Yeah, so because you'd worked on the project, you had basically earned yourself a life.
Yeah.
Like you were the last humans of that generation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So as you work your way through the facility, you come to a hologram, and it says that the Gaia facility is now sealed. However, there's a malfunction on one of the door seals, and that it's 10 millimeters, which seems ridiculous. It's like a centimeter open. And that could mean that the machines could detect the facility and, basically break into it and destroy it. So someone has to leave the facility to repair the door, and they would never be able to come back. They couldn't reopen the doors again. Right. So there's all these, there's like 5 alphas all debating it.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
there were a bunch
where's
of them.
Lisbeth? She was supposed to be down here already. And then this hologram pops up.
Because you knew it was. It was like,
yeah, and she's like,
already gone.
She's in an exosuit, and she's like, the door is sealed. Good luck. I'm going home to where I grew up, or at least I'm going to try.
Yep.
And she's like, Gaia, reseal, Gaia, you know what you need to do. And the guys are like, but no, Elizabeth, you can't do it. And it's like, we all knew this was coming. We all knew we were going to die somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go home to where I was raised. Yep. And where I learned to be, where I learned to care. Yeah. Or that's what she says anyway. Mm-hmm. So she isn't in the facility. And it was like
she felt like her work was done. She couldn't do it
She passed the torch on to Gaia, who she had faith in was capable of doing what needed to be done.
Yeah. And to the rest of the alphas, well, because they were at Gaia Prime because they all chose to continue working because they hadn't quite finished by 0 day. Yeah. And so they were not with their loved ones in the place where they continued living on throughout the rest of their natural lives. They weren't part of that because they chose to keep going and working and do what they needed to do and finish.
And that's why that guy was so annoyed, because if he had gone to be with his partner, then he couldn't get the birds of paradise into the machine anyway. Yeah. So it was like he'd failed both ways. Yeah. So you go further into the facility. You get the device.
Yep. And you find out about Turnip Head.
Yeah. So, our friend Ted decides that he is now God.
And let's remind people that this is the man who created the machines that destroyed the world.
Yeah.
Right?
So, Ted comes up with the best plan he can think of, and he doesn't want humanity to, have to live with the mistakes that humans made in the past. So he purges Apollo. 3 minutes before he has the conversation with the Joint Chiefs, or I think they're alphas, but there's the military leaders as well with them in the conference room. So he's like, oh yeah, I destroyed Apollo 3 minutes ago. So that, people won't be able to make the same mistakes we did.
It was like to preserve innocence or something like that. Like, so
but basically
they wouldn't be shackled with our past.
To me,
right?
is like he didn't want anyone to know what mistake he made.
Right.
Because he's an arrogant little idiot.
I think he just came a little bit mentally unhinged because they said, like, without Elizabeth there to kind of run interference with him, he became more and more isolated, and he built this, like, pyramid thing to himself.
Huh, I didn't read that.
With, like, that's these, like, women, hollow women or something, and it was very weird. And
so he basically lost his mind.
He lost his mind.
And had security clearance and was stupid.
And he destroyed all that information, and so that answers... why
Apollo isn't functioning.
Why Apollo isn't functional, and also why the society of today doesn't know anything about the ancient civilization, right?
And then he also evacuates the air from the room and kills
them all.
So that they can't reinstate Apollo.
Yep. Yeah, this was a man who should have been fed to one of his machines. And
also, Silence says that... I've just lost my train of thought. Oh, that was it. Silence says that so his innocence builds something like the Sun Ring.
Yep.
So his lack of foresight in that regard, his innocence basically caused people to be murdered.
Yep.
In a ring for a god.
Well, because it meant that we couldn't learn from the past. And the way that our society works is that we build upon all of the, collective knowledge.
Standing upon the shoulders of giants, and the giants being our ancestors that did all the hard work, so we don't effectively make the same mistakes as they do. But we, in Horizon Zero Dawn, aren't even given the opportunity
to...
because of one man's insanity.
Yeah. And it pissed me off because I was like, who... He is so arrogant. Like, who do you think you are to make that decision for
It's because
everyone?
he footed the bill, and because he's the CEO of a company. He thinks that he's God, effectively.
Pretty much. Yeah, because he was a rich boy who could build himself a company and then be able to buy the technology in order to keep himself on top. And whatever. And he was like the world's first trillionaire or something, it said, and he's just an asshole. And I don't know...
Pretty much.
I don't know why on earth they kept him as one of the alphas or whatnot. I guess because they had to, because they
had to for his money.
They made a deal with him for the money or whatnot. And, I mean, it's not like he was stupid. He was intelligent.
He wasn't stupid, he was insane.
Right. Yeah. He was an insane, egomaniacal bastard who,
screwed the world twice.
Yep. You also have a little bit of a conversation with Silence there.
That's what I was going to get to. It's on the way out because he actually talks to you in person.
Yeah.
One of the few times you actually meet him.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to...
Yeah. Well, you have a conversation with him a little bit within that facility as well, because throughout this whole thing, like, Aloy is basically kind of devastated. in learning who she really is for, reasons that make sense. Like, to learn that you are a clone of this person who lived hundreds of years ago, and you didn't have a real mother and father, and to learn that basically, like, I would assume, and I think it alludes to, she feels basically like a tool. Like, am I even a person? You know?
I'm just being used for this purpose.
Right.
By everybody, it seems.
Yeah.
So she's used by a bunch of people on side quests and so on because she has a focus.
Right.
And can use a focus.
Yep.
She's also being used by Silence to be able to get into the facilities to find out information for him.
Yep.
She's being used by Gaia, who created her in the first place,
Yep.
to
stop Hades,
reinstate her and stop Hades. And it's just like, I'm a person and I'm basically being used as if I'm a hammer.
Right. Well, and like that question of like, am I even a person? Like if I don't have parents, and if I am a clone of somebody else, like who even am I? We would have that crisis of conscience, or crisis of identity.
An identity crisis.
It's like crisis, yeah.
I'm not exactly who I thought I was.
Yeah.
I don't have a mother like normal people would think.
Right.
I don't have a father like normal people would think.
I have...
What's my place in the world?
Yeah, exactly. And, I'm continuing because, I have to, basically. But where do I fit into all of this? Because now, basically, the Nora worship her.
Yeah, as the anointed, because when she comes out of the All-Mother bunker, they think that she's like her avatar.
Right, yeah.
She's doing her bidding.
She's talked directly to the All-Mother, like...
Which she has, in a sense, because Gaia's the All-Mother.
Yeah.
As far as I would say.
Yeah. But Aloy's like, what? Stop, get off your knees, stop this.
I don't want to be praised.
Like at first, like you hated me.
It's like
all my
you
life.
hypocritical bunch of sycophants.
Yeah, you hated me all my life and made me feel like I was a pile of shit, and now I'm like,
now because I'm all important.
I'm
supposedly
I'm your worshipped leader. Like, screw you.
I'm your savior. Yeah.
Which was, I think it had a really good character development for her, and
it did.
And I like how she is so like Elizabeth. I mean, obviously she's her freaking clone, so of course they're similar, but
it's nature and nurture.
Yeah. It's
like Rost made her care.
Yep. Whereas Elizabeth's mother showed her that, and like they share similarities, they're both intelligent, they're both strong, they're both natural leaders. But they both
they get things done.
Molded into that, and they have this balance. And I like how they show throughout several of these things. I think one of the big themes of the game is how you need balance between emotion and logic and intelligence and knowledge. Right.
Yeah, she's like a paragon of balance, whereas Helis is a paragon of
emotion, faith,
obedience, like obedience to one cause. Yep. And then
Silence is your paragon to intellectual knowledge, because you find out
all things.
You find out that really
this is the point at which you find out
all he cares about is learning things.
Like knowledge above everything else, because you find out like on the way out of the facility that he found Hades and was his first disciple, created the Eclipse, worked on their focuses, worked on the focus network. He set all of this up. Then he realized he was being used by Hades. Hades realized and tried to have him killed. And that's when he escapes.
And that's why he's helping you, because
he can't gain the knowledge himself. Right. Because the faction he worked for doesn't want anything to do with him anymore.
Right.
He also finds out that Hades wants to destroy the world, and he wants to still be alive. So
to know things. So, and he is a very mysterious guy. Like the way that he looks, I
He
wonder
looks
if
like a
he's from
Banuk
the Banuk.
partially,
Yeah, because he has
because he
these
has like the
wires
wires in his
threaded through his
face.
skin. And they're up his arms and through his head, his face, and whatnot. And a lot of the Banuk people who you have met also have themselves
Did you
decorated
do
like
the
that.
side mission for the guy that drinks the oil from machines and has hallucinations?
No, I think I missed that.
He was interesting because he gets you to go and find a corruptor, and he drinks it and has a vision and tells you what they are, and that gave me an inkling as to what was happening with the Thunderjaws being produced, because he drinks Thunderjaw blood, and it's like he feels that the Thunderjaws were being built, the way he talks, were being built to counter humanity by our actions against them.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't do that one. I feel like there are definitely some side quests that I missed, because I think the little quest markers don't pop up until you go into that area, you know?
They don't.
And so I didn't go back and revisit all of the areas before the end, so I'm pretty sure there are some things that I missed.
Yep, so after he gets you to finding the Thunderjaw blood, you then go after a Stormbird, and that basically ends the quest, because after he's had his little like hallucination, he's like, we need to get as far away from here as possible, like something really bad is coming and it's like the end of the world kind of, and then he just like walks out of his house and disappears. And it's like, maybe he realized Hades' intent, I don't know how, through the blood.
Or like knew that the Deathbringers were coming, or that they were trying to bring them back.
Yeah.
Something.
Or, you know, Stormbirds are bad enough.
Yeah, that's true. so yeah, I mean, so Silens could be a Banuk person. Yeah. But it's not really clear who exactly he is or where he came from. All that we really know about him is that he loves knowledge. He wants to know things, and that's his primary goal in life.
Yeah, knowledge above everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so after that, he gives you his spear and says, attach the like control device to it. So that's the point at which we finally get a legendary spear. I call them legendary because I think it's like purple.
The purple. From
Destiny.
Yeah, well, because it's the same sort of gear progression too. It's
green,
like green, blue, purple. Yeah. So he tells you how to attach that so that you can basically it's like an emergency induction mechanism, right?
Emergency induction port. Yeah. So it's basically you need to stab it into Hades' module, whatever that round thing he's contained in is.
Yeah.
And it will override him and stop him, effectively.
Right. Yep. It's the, like, it'll basically turn him off.
Precisely.
Is what it was. And so, and then you learn a little bit more, and they have some audio logs and stuff about how Silence first joined Hades.
Right.
And, you know, because basically he saw Hades as like this interesting thing. And he activated Hades. He turned him on. And
but this was like after Gaia had been destroyed, I'm assuming.
I assume so, yeah.
Well, because effectively Hades leaves. Hades,
they all leave, basically.
Well, it's like I don't know if they all leave as such. It's like Hephaestus is still within the foundry, the crucible areas. Like he's still pumping out
the cauldrons, yeah.
Cauldrons, but it seems like Hades just kind of goes away from where he's been contained within the Gaia system to somewhere else.
Right. And he's now in this like little core that was buried and dug up. But we don't know like what happened, because I guess maybe when Gaia blew herself up, it shut some of them off.
I'd assume so.
It seemed like he was deactivated when Silence found him.
Or maybe Gaia blew herself up. He goes into that device.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's always been in that device. like that's his core.
Mm-hmm.
But why would he not be part of like Gaia Prime or
Right.
one of the installations, unless his installation was destroyed
Yeah,
when
that's
Gaia blew
possible
herself
too.
up, and
That's
he
possible
transferred to
too.
that thing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
'Cause
and it may be that
the reason why
he didn't necessarily have one, maybe because he was meant to take control
when Gaia
when
wasn't
Gaia wasn't
controlling the
controlling, because
terraforming.
it would be like the
It
reins
could
had
it
given
could
over to
also
him.
be the reason why it was buried is it's pre-Horizon, it's pre-Zero Dawn tech that was buried from whenever it became dormant. Because I think what it is, it might be one of the cores for a Titan. Because he's like in a Titan, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that. Yeah, I think that is what it was. And they just removed it from the Titan because it was easier to transport.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's unclear where that glitch or whatever happened to unshackle all of the other systems.
We don't know, do we? We don't know where it came from,
happened.
what it is.
Right, and how that happened. And I guess when the programs left, they like went to something to a place that made sense for them. So like Hephaestus went to the cauldrons and is running them, and Hades
Minerva
went
to the Spire, because that's where her primary systems are.
Yeah, and Hades went to like a Titan because that's what he was programmed basically to do, was destroy.
Yeah. So with Gaia blowing up Gaia Prime and denying Hades the ability to use the terraforming equipment there, Hades comes up with the plan to reawaken the old machines. And this makes me think of Reapers now, but we're not. To reawaken to reawaken the dormant like corruptors and warbringers, and use them to get to the Spire, which is the control system that Gaia used to turn the machines off about 500 years after the event. So, and that's under the control of Minerva at this point. So he wants to lead an assault against that to take control of it, which coincides with it being right next to Meridian. So
because
he can
they
kill
probably
two birds
built
with one
there,
stone.
and I don't remember. I didn't read some of the
text
things
within Meridian itself.
that's about the
I'm
Sun
assuming that they
Kingdom
built it next to it because they think it's some sort of pillar
to the sun.
homage to the sun.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They are
too.
actually sun bros.
Yeah,
it's Soler's memorial.
Yep. And so that would be my guess too. Is they built their capital city there because the Spire was there, and because it's like up on a thing that's close to the sun.
It's like a focal point,
right?
It's like you can see it from a long way away as well when you're running around in the jungle area.
I mean, and it makes sense that that's the location for the Spire because it needs to be as high up as possible to be able to send out the signal, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so now we know Hades is trying to attack the Spire to send out his signal to corrupt and wake up all the machines.
To bring around Doomsday again.
Right.
0 Day.
Yep. And we have to stop it. And so you go to Meridian and sort of amass your forces.
Yeah, rally the defenders.
Yep.
So people that you have done side quests for through the story will show up if they're alive.
Yep, they'll show up. So
there's this guy called Nils who you can clear a bandit camp with, and he can show. Did you see him when you did it?
I didn't see him, but I feel like I missed people probably.
No, basically, when you're in the middle of fighting, he's in the burned out city area that you run through to get to the Spire.
Oh, okay.
He's just fighting, and you just hear him going, "This is where I was supposed to be," and he's just killing a bunch of Shadow Carja.
Maybe I just didn't realize that was him.
Yeah. So he'll turn up because he doesn't turn up to actually talk to. I was like, Nils, as I ran past him.
Yeah.
Do your murderous thing.
Do it, man. Do it. Yeah, he was an interest. They had a bunch of interesting characters and side quests, and we've already talked too long. And probably don't have time to talk about all of them.
No,
but
it was like someone trying to turn the Hunters Guild into a meritocracy rather than the old like not caste system, but
pretty close to that. Like you can't join unless you're a Karja noble.
Social. Oh, what do they call it? My brain's gone dead. Class system is what I was thinking of in the UK.
So like unless you were of Karja nobility, you couldn't join the Hunter's Lodge, and so you help. And they were also sexist because they're very sexist in their particular society.
Yeah, so
women couldn't
the lady
join
that you end up helping get through, the only reason she was even allowed to be a member was because her family were highborn.
Right.
And they allowed her to be, and she becomes a hawk because her father and brother get killed.
Right.
And it's like, that's... Yeah. Just people like that irritate
Well,
me.
and other people are allowed to join now because of the new Sun King. The new Sun King wants to get rid of all that racist crap. And so
But they make it difficult.
But they make it difficult, so you have her take over for the asshole who was in charge.
Yeah.
So that's a whole big side plot. And then you have other random things where you help people and whatnot. I don't know. It was cool.
The side quests definitely added to the world. It didn't feel like they were just ancillary and not really worth doing.
Right.
There were a few errands and stuff, like you had to find some guy that's stolen some fruit.
Right, yeah.
But
for the most part...
Those little side quests are always in games anyway.
Yeah.
But no, for the most part...
They were good.
They worked well. And then you could go and talk to all the... Like, in the preparations, you could go and talk to each person that had turned up. So there was, like, this lady that was building a prototype cannon.
I liked her.
She was
funny.
Cool. Yep. So, I don't know if she isn't there, whether you're able to use that weapon in the siege at the end.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, they talk about the Oseram cannons,
wrecked.
But that was the one that she was using.
Building.
Right?
It's, like, special.
Yeah.
It's like a prototype.
Yeah. And so she was there, and that was cool. And just various other people. There was a Nora woman from the beginning, basically, a quest that you got at the beginning to find her. She had gone to try to kill one of the Karja
she was like
guys
a war chief.
Yeah. She had gone to try to kill one of the Karja generals who had slaughtered her family, and then there was Vashra? What's her name? Vashara. And
the one that I liked.
Yeah, you liked her. She was
cool.
She was the like cheeky roguey person who helped
She was a spy.
Yep, she was a spy who helped you in the little
get the Sun King's younger brother.
Yep. To get him out of Shadow Karja land.
Hands.
And you saved this other guy.
It's like a Shadow Karja general guy, but he's not an asshole.
Right. He realized that he was wrong and went back to the Sun King. And so those two were funny, and their banter is hilarious. And then just a couple of other random folks.
And there's also ones tied to the main story, like Iran is there.
Yep. And Sona, the war chief from the Nora tribe, and her son Varl. So
did the lady, the one that you were talking about earlier, is she from the daughter quest? You said that she went out and tried to hunt down the person that killed her father.
Right, she was the like a vengeful daughter, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't turn up for me.
Oh, really?
I didn't see her to speak to.
Huh. No, she was definitely... Her name was like Nakoa or something.
Yeah, I remember her name.
She was like blonde with the braid.
Did you go and talk to her again in Meridian?
No, I never could find her again in Meridian.
No, Maybe she was there and I missed her.
Yeah,
Like, maybe I talked to all of the main ones.
She was across from Petra. She was on the opposite platform. Petra was the one with the cannons.
Right.
And so she was on the platform across from her. I think all of them didn't have little quest markers.
That might be why then. Maybe it was the main ones and that's why I missed it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you set up for the siege.
So you start the siege.
Because you find out that, he's going to lead a massive invasion.
Yep. And so basically you have your people on the ridge outside with the cannons and stuff to try to stop them from getting into the city. And then you have your people up at the spire to protect it.
Yeah. And it basically culminates with the siege failing and Hades gets to the spire.
Right.
So you effectively have to run through a bunch of burned out buildings to get to him. And then you fight a Deathbringer.
Yeah. Well, before that, you fight Helis.
Right, yeah, I forgot about him.
So they sort of
you're
blast
at the palace,
into
aren't
the
you,
city.
when it starts.
Yep. They sort of blast into the city, and then you jump down to fight him, and you have your little sort of boss fight with him, and you kill him. And I guess you get to decide what you want to say to him, how you want to kill him. Which thing did you choose?
I chose the one where it's like face the sun.
Yeah.
And then he looks and you stab him with the spear.
That's the one.
I may or may not have just punched something off the table. So if you hear a crash, it's that. But don't worry, it's fine. Because I did the hand motion of me stabbing him with a spear and I knocked something over.
Yeah. Oh dear. So yeah, I did the same one. So I don't know what the other ones would be, but I liked that. I thought that was fitting because he's like, you pity me. And that's almost the worst thing that you can do to somebody like that.
Yeah, I effectively was like, I pity you.
Yeah, because you are so blind. Yeah. Yeah, to what you are doing. And so I thought that was cool. I liked that for him. And I liked that they went ahead and got that out of the way and he wasn't like main boss fight at the end.
Yeah.
And then you do a bunch of stuff with the cannons where you shoot down a ton of robots and stuff and like Deathbringers and
Deathbringers,
long legs,
bellowbacks, long legs,
Glinthawks, our favorite
Ravagers, Glinthawks, Stormbird. There's one Stormbird comes in. There's a couple of Thunderjaws. It's just like I'm just destroying everything. And I had the armor.
Yeah.
There's like a special set of armor you can get for collecting power cells. Yep. Took no damage the entire end section of the game.
That's cool. I didn't have that, and I did take damage the entire end section of the game.
Absolutely hammered everything.
Yep. So
I was playing on easy, but I'm so beast at games me that I cannot take damage in boss fight.
Totally. But yeah, I wish I had that armor, but I didn't have it yet because I didn't look up the location for the power cells. So, but anyway, it was fine. I wrecked things and then
had fun doing so.
And then basically, so like you kill a bunch of the things outside. Then there's a cutscene where there's more Deathbringers. They knock down part of the building.
It's like one of the gates collapses.
Yeah, collapses and knocks you out. And then you kind of wake up and you are...
The siege has failed. Like, they've won the siege. You see Hades being dragged past.
Yeah. It's like they broke through your defenses and have just blasted their way through the city in order to get to the spire, right?
Yeah.
And so...
Because Hades at this stage controls a few machines. Like, he doesn't have an innumerable amount.
Right.
That's what you're trying to stop him getting. Like, he's the corruptors he has and the Deathbringers he's had to go and dig up.
Right.
To find them.
Yep. And
whereas if he gets control of the spire, he will just have all of the ones that are entombed, basically shut down, buried all over the world.
Yep. Or all over the immediate vicinity. Right. So you're not really sure whether that goes all over the world or whether it just goes all over the area which it would read, because they said they were building multiple spires. So
Right, but it could be that if he hacks one, then he's effectively hijacking the system on all the other ones.
that could be
as well.
too.
We just don't know. Plot hole.
No, it's just.
Well, they never. No,
it's something
really
that doesn't really matter.
It's not something that we need to know.
No.
It's like, does it matter whether he can take over all of the
Right.
Deathbringers in the world at that time? No,
Well,
because we only care about our little portion.
Right, and we don't know if we are the only people in the world, or if there were, cradle facilities in other
because
areas.
it could be the cradle facilities in other countries were destroyed.
It could
or malfunctioned.
Yeah, and we just don't know, because that would be interesting to see. Like, this
Or
is
like
how
they all got
society
eaten
built itself at this place.
And did they all get eaten by Thunderjaws because Hephaestus was more thorough
Yeah,
in their locations? Like, their hunters were terrible.
right.
They were all just sat at home playing video games and then got eaten.
Because they had different facilities. Because they talked about in some of the audio logs and text logs and stuff, they talked about other facilities in a couple of different places. So,
because it's like, is it solely North America that's being rebuilt, or are they going to try and rebuild the entire world?
Right.
Or is it like you get North America resettled and then people will spread
and
out?
then move out.
Like, are the robots everywhere? Because if you're cleaning the atmosphere, you're going to want to clean the entire planet's atmosphere, because otherwise you'll just have wafting gas that's bad coming back across again with the weather systems. So
Right.
I'm assuming that there must be machines everywhere, but whether there was enough of the cradle facilities available
Right. To
actually reseed humanity.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Because I would assume that the robots and stuff are everywhere, because, like you said, you wouldn't just
Exactly.
you'd
want
one
to do
part of the
worldwide,
atmosphere,
and also the
one
ocean.
part of the ocean,
It's like,
or one part of whatever.
because you physically can't. It's a fluid.
Yeah.
It moves. It's like you have to clean the whole thing.
Which
It's like you can't.
gives us possibilities for future games having like marine robots and stuff, because those alligator ones would not have been deep sea.
No, you'd have like sperm whale
Mhm.
ones or giant squid ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also, I guess we'll get back to the story,
Yep.
because we can talk about other
Afterwards,
stuff
yep.
afterwards. Because this is going to be like a monster episode at this
No.
point. I don't
Yeah.
mind. Or we could do it in 2 parts. But anyway.
So anyway, you wake up, you go through the burned out
buildings.
buildings and stuff. People are fighting, you're running, you get up to the spire.
Oh, yeah. In that area as well, I met one of the Bannock huntress ladies from the tribe. Did you meet her too?
Yeah, she was also available to talk to before.
I'm going to have to go back and replay the end and see which ones I missed.
Yeah, and maybe Nil was as well, because like...
Maybe Neil was and I missed him.
And I missed him too, because there was...
Because you missed the Sunhawk lady
Yeah,
the
I
first
did,
time,
because she
and I
was
had to tell you to
like...
go back.
Because I ran right
On the
by her,
stairs.
because she was on the stairs. But yeah, there were a bunch of people in that first, in the ridge area. And so, like, the warrior from the Bannock tribe was there. And the girl from that one...
I met her running up to the tower during the
Yeah.
siege, and I was like, she's here too, wolf woman.
Yeah, she was cool.
Because she's got a wolf pelt
Yeah.
on her head.
And the girl from one of the side quests... That one that was a little bit silly, where it was the girl who was meeting the boy.
Oh, she... Yeah.
The sort of Romeo and Juliet
boy,
type story, right?
Yeah. The cliche one.
So she was there. And I don't know if you talked to her. Yeah, she was there, and she was saying she was gonna, she wasn't fighting.
I must have missed them all because they didn't have
markers,
quest markers on
Yeah.
them. So I only thought the ones with quest markers.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna have to put it back on. Sorry, we're gonna cut this podcast short. We're gonna finish right now, and I'm gonna go replay it again. What a shame! I'm gonna have to play a good game again.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
Anyway,
so she was there, like, gathering medicine and stuff to, like, help people and whatever.
Like our friend from the start that we saved when he fell off the cliff. He's like a clothing salesman.
Yeah.
Kind of seamstress,
What's
but
his
male.
name?
Taylor?
Todd or Teb.
Begins with
His
a-
name is Teb.
Teb.
Yeah.
Teb.
Yep.
Yeah. So Teb's there to dress wounds and stuff, so she can help
Yeah.
him. And then she fell in love with Teb.
Yeah, that would be nice, actually.
That would
They would
work.
work.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you run by, you see all like people fighting and stuff, and then you meet up with Aaron and Varl. I think his name is Varl, not Vash.
Varl, yeah, he's
Varl. He's the son of Sona, the war chief, right?
And the brother of Vala that is with you in
Right,
Proving but dies.
And then and the Sunhawk lady,
yeah.
Talana.
I don't remember her name. It's complicated.
Talea, something.
It begins with a T, but her like surname is ridiculous, and I couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna call you Dave. I call everyone Dave.
Sunhawk lady, and Aaron and Varl are there to like meet you. And Sona's been wounded, but she says, I'll live.
Yeah, she fought the good fight.
And so you guys, the four of you, go up to the top of the spire and are fighting the big monster Deathbringer that because it seems like it's
like
bigger
super
than,
corrupted.
It seems like it's bigger and more powerful than the others you fought.
So there's me there throwing as many ice balls at it as possible, going, please freeze, please freeze, please freeze. Come on, you've got to freeze. Really? Why are you not freezing? Who just set it on fire? Really? It's like, because it somehow got set on fire instead of freezing.
That's funny. But yeah, and it brings other machines into the fight as well. So then there are some corruptors, there are some ravagers.
Yeah, I got ravaged from behind, literally. It shot me in the back of the head, and I was like, what is that? And it was like, I'm a ravager. And I'm like, no, you're dead.
No, you're dead.
Give me that gun.
Give me that gun. I picked up the gun, too. So yeah.
I also nicked one of the turrets off of it as well, because they're like the machine guns that the heavy Eclipse guys brought.
I kept trying to knock them off of it, but I never did get one knocked off before it died.
I hit it with... It must have been about 7 or 8 of the like heavy sniper arrows to knock one off.
Because I hit it with a few Tear Blast arrows. I hit it with the precision arrows, and it just never fell off. But it was a weak point, so it did a lot of damage, so it died. But so you had the big Deathbringer, and you're fighting it, and I'm trying to shock it because it's weak to shock. So I'm shooting shock arrows at it. But they won't ever get it. They just suck.
Terrible.
And then
I'm sorry, but the warbow, other than the corruption, which was cool, wasn't great for the other elements. Hence, I didn't use it.
So that one sucked. And so then I tried to set down some of those shock traps to like shock it. And I'm like running around, throwing stuff around its feet, and it's like stepping on me.
I wonder if you could tie them down.
I wonder. Maybe if you
that.
put enough ropes onto it. You got like 30 ropes and it's
like
like
50.
I can't move.
And then a snow speeder goes by with a tow cable and you're like, it's like a Star Wars joke. Go get a tow cable, go for the legs.
So
you could actually make it fall over as well, because when it got to a certain point where it overheated slightly, you could blow one of the capsules off its legs and it goes and falls over. And like face plants the floor with its head. And I was like,
that's funny. So you kill all of its like big machines, and then you go and you do
a Gandalf moment.
You stab Hades.
You shall not pass.
And
also during the battle, Hades has actually been tapped into the Minerva Spire, and he has been controlling machines across the world, because you see one come out of the ground at the Citadel and there's a little kid playing football, and then you see one come out of the ground next to like 3 Nora hunters, and it starts absorbing biomass. It rips the swarm goes out and then pulls the leaves, rips the leaves apart down to the molecular level and reabsorbs it, and it comes up with a little bar on the side that says like biomass conversion in progress. So they're
refueling themselves because ready because they don't.
They have no power, and
right
they've been dormant for like 500 years.
So,
because if you think about it, if it took Gaia 500 years to deactivate them, that only means that there's been 400 years of her actually attempting to remake the
Right.
world. So maybe we are the first attempt.
Yeah.
And Hades was never
It
needed.
could be. Or it could be that, it didn't take that many years for them to realize that it was a failure first. Because they probably wouldn't have put humans, they wouldn't have started repopulating the world with human beings.
But also the thing with humans is like, why haven't they got any real deer back in before they make humans? Because surely they'd need food stock. So maybe only the small animal embryos survive.
Right, like
foxes, rabbits,
they
turkeys,
didn't have enough time, or they
boar.
couldn't get samples from them because the things
so
had
maybe it's
killed
like
everything
the
first.
biggest thing that they were able to put in was a boar.
Mm-hmm.
There was also one thing. I was running around and I found a goose. So I killed the goose and it dropped a goose skin, and I was like, I don't need this thing for anything. Why is it even a thing in the game? When you get the Terrablast shotgun thing, it's actually one of the things you need to upgrade the carry pouch for.
Nice.
So I was like, good thing I kept it.
Yeah.
I was just running around with goose flesh.
Yeah.
The entire game. Like, what? I'm gonna need this for something.
Yep.
Sorry, that was a complete ramble, but this is the whole point of this podcast. So, yeah.
Right. So, so where were we? Yeah, so the swarm thing was converting biomass, and it started with like plant life, the trees. And that's when it becomes like, if you hadn't listened to all the stuff or you hadn't read all the things, where you understand that the corruption stuff is the swarm that converts biomass to fuel.
And it also seems like the swarm is what turns a normal machine into a controlled machine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a portion of the swarm goes into that machine?
Yeah.
And that the like leaking corruption off of it is actually like voracious nanites of death.
Yeah.
And that's why it hurts.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn, it's eating my skin. Get it off.
Yep. And that's why, probably why the other robots, they keep being made, because they don't have the ability to self-replicate themselves and
so when they're destroyed,
people to make fuel and stuff like that, because they wouldn't have been programmed that way, because the guy is not an idiot like Ted Farrow.
Yeah.
So
self-replicating robots with no oversight. This sounds like the best day ever.
Uh-huh. And they can refuel themselves by eating you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to build a new missile. Just let me eat this child.
Yeah. So anyway.
Daisy, where are you? Oh, nom, 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 nom.
So you stab Hades. And you are able to go into the system and do like the override.
Yeah.
And that shuts it off. It shuts off all of the things that it had brought back to life.
Yep, so they go dormant.
Yep.
Again.
And then it's like you meet back up with your allies and you're like, yeah, we did it. We did the thing. And then the game ends.
Well. The game mostly ends. We have the credits.
We have the credits.
And during the credit sequence, you see Aloy traveling to a location.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That's right.
And then she gets to the location, finds a body propped up against a wall, like highly aged, in a hazmat suit.
An exosuit, yeah.
Near a house with a name that is familiar to people that may have read some of the documents.
Right.
And then she touches the name badge, like on her focus, and it says Dr. Elizabeth.
So.
And you find out that that's where she died.
Yep.
She made it home.
Yep.
Into her garden. And the thing I really liked about that, during the game, you find these metal flowers that build triangular shapes of flowers to, like, I guess they must have been the seed points for the foliage. Mm-hmm. There's no metal flower there, but there's a triangle of flowers around her body.
Sorry.
That Gaia had obviously placed there as a little memorial to her. which I thought was really nice.
Yeah, it was very cool.
So she finds her mother, effectively.
And I would guess that she probably rebuilds that ranch.
I would hope so.
And makes it her home. Because she doesn't really fit anywhere at this point, you know?
She isn't any one of those tribes. No. She has facets of each of them. So she is Nora, but she's also got a bit of Karja, like, I think the meritocracy side of it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, people...
Well, I think the point is that at this point she knows so much more about everything than any of those people. So she knows that sun is not a god. We don't worship that. These machines are not gods.
She knows the All-Mother isn't a god.
Yeah.
She's an AI.
She's an AI. We don't worship that. She knows the machines aren't gods, so she's not Banuk. You know, she's obviously not going to drink people's blood and like the Reavers. And so at this point, like, she doesn't really fit in anywhere. Because if she went back to the Nora,
and her ties to the Nora
they would worship
are gone
her.
Because Rost is gone.
Yep.
And we didn't talk about Rost, but the reason why Rost is outcast is that his family were kidnapped by a group of Karja under the old king's regime, and he and a bunch of braves followed them. His wife was killed in the initial attack. His daughter was kidnapped. He goes after her to try and find her, and finds them moving towards one of the locations that we know where one of the corruptors is buried, I think, in the metal ring.
Yeah, it's like the border between the Karja and Nora, where the Nora wouldn't follow, basically, and they go to the
it's called the Devil's something, but it's where the stadium is. That's where they go first, and that's where they start sacrificing a few people.
Yeah,
and then or killed them because the braves were following them, but then they just stop and go to the border instead. So I don't know whether they were part of the eclipse at that point, and they were maybe thinking that blood might bring one of the machines back.
Maybe
that's what was going through my head. But then I guess because
that was before whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking
happened.
Actually because. Yeah, so maybe they weren't. Anyway, that probably doesn't make sense. Now thinking about it in the time scale, it wouldn't make sense for them to be working with Hades. Because he hadn't been released at that point. But anyway, they take them to the border, they kill his daughter, and leave the body across the border.
Yeah.
And he goes back to the matriarchs and says, I want to become a Death Seeker. Which basically means that he forfeits his life for vengeance.
Yep.
So he leaves the tribe areas, goes across the border, picks the bodies up and gives them
back
to the Nora,
and then he goes
so that they can be buried.
Then he goes
and
hunting.
Then he disappears for a year.
He goes after those, because I think it was 12.
There's
12 of them.
Yeah.
And he goes after them and
for a year.
And then he comes back and he's dying.
He's like crawling towards the border. He wanted to be as close to the Nora lands before he died. However, one of the guards on duty on the border is a lady that had two of her sons and her husband taken and murdered by the Karja. So she breaks tribal law, steps across the border and drags his body back across. And then the matriarchs have no idea what to do with him because he should never have lived.
Right.
So they come up with an ultimatum and say, you will be outcast, but you can live within Nora lands.
Right.
And he's utterly delighted with that because he thought he would never see his home again and never be able to live in the country that he loves. So Rost lives out a portion of his life, and then our main character Aloy appears, created, and Teersa decides to give her to him to raise. Which I think is really nice because he lost his daughter. And he has the opportunity to be a father.
Yeah.
And it's
nice.
Some people may say it's cruel, but I think that actually is nice of them to do so.
Well, and they knew that he would protect her
with his life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And that he's a good person, and that he would teach her the ways of the tribe and all that stuff.
Yeah, and he follows tribal law, so he won't talk to people.
Right. Exactly. So, I liked that we got to know that about him.
Yeah. Same. I missed it the first time because I forgot to talk to Tirsa when we were at the bunker.
Yep.
Because I talked to everybody else and forgot her, and I was like, no, I need to know.
Why? So yeah, so she tells you all that stuff.
So you find out who your mother was, you find out who your adopted father is, or his backstory. And so after the credits end,
you find out. So it's like Hades kind of reactivates, and part of it goes out in like one of those swarms, and it goes to Silence, who's
holding this like lamp
thing, up.
But it must be like a AI containment device.
Yep. And so it goes there, and he says, "We have a lot left to find out, my friend. Like who are
the people behind your activation." So
and this and that.
Knowledge.
And so
101 again.
And so you find out that Silence wasn't necessarily trying to destroy Hades. In fact, the thing that he, created for you to do the override thing, he probably programmed something into it so that Hades would go to that containment thing that he had.
Yeah, it would transfer him to it so that he could use him for his own ends. Like, he doesn't want the world to end, but he wants as much knowledge as possible.
And he doesn't care that Hades has the potential to destroy, human life. Right?
Yeah, he just wants to know.
Yeah, he just wants to know what's going on. And, that gives a lot of potential for... I think this has a lot of potential for sequels anyway, because just the world is super interesting. What happened to all of the other... VIs, what happened to all of the...
And also, what happened in other continents.
What happened on other continents. What's going to happen with society now that they have more
it's like you're going to have to...
Like, do you tell people?
Learn to deal with it.
Who do you tell? How do you tell them?
I wonder if the program, the space shuttle program... that they made that they stored Apollo on. If that isn't
destroyed,
not
completely destroyed,
can they get the alpha version of Apollo back from that to be able to give to people to understand?
That's what I wonder too. Or if they use some of those cradle facilities because they were using them to teach people stuff, and it seemed like that was their function, but then they couldn't sustain them after a certain point, and they had to go out into the
It was like
wild.
they had the educational facilities to train them up to a certain age, like from child to young adult. But then they didn't have any knowledge of the world before.
Right, they couldn't teach them things.
They taught you how to survive, but they couldn't tell you who the first president of the United States was because they have no idea what the United States is.
And they could teach you basic language and stuff because...
that was within the Cradle program, not Apollo.
And so, just like teaching you how to speak and what words were and basic stuff like that, but it wasn't like any kind of greater knowledge, right?
Yeah, it's like the basics. Communication skills, survival skills.
Yeah.
But it seemed like if you go into one of the other side rooms in the Cradle facility, you'll see them like two of the people making out with each other or like getting close. And the machine's like, let's cool down, let's run and play, blah, blah, blah. And it's like it doesn't understand. Like the machine's programming is only programmed for children.
Right, yeah.
So it's like only... It can't comprehend what they're trying to do and tell them, like give them advice because it's beyond its remit for
Yeah.
programming. So they end up getting beaten up by one of the
Robots. Yeah.
robots because they're causing a ruckus.
Yep.
Because they're like, we want to go through that door or we want to go outside, and it's like, now you have to leave because we can't support you anymore.
Yeah. And that was how, they got put out into the world, but they obviously can't let them back in the bunker. And I wondered this when I was playing, and I just now kind of figured it out. Because the bunkers are programmed to only let in certain personnel, because they wouldn't
so that's why they couldn't get back in.
They wouldn't want their stuff getting hacked or reprogrammed or whatever. Or damaged.
Or damaged.
Yep.
Or destroyed.
Exactly. So once they leave, and once they reach the age of maturity where they could actually maybe figure some of that stuff out and do some damage, they let them loose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's got tons of potential, because obviously all of the other VIs are out somewhere, because Festus is working. We don't really know what...
And Minerva's
we don't
working.
know where the other ones are, or what their purposes were, exactly what they're doing. So, we could have other bad situations on our hands. We also don't know who the people were, like the Silence refers to, who let them out in the first place.
Who sent the signal? We don't know who sent the signal.
It's like, what was that?
Yeah.
And for what purpose? Because, I mean, I'm assuming that whoever sent the signal out, if it wasn't a machine and was a person, then they wouldn't have intended for Hades to destroy everything, which could possibly be why he was buried and deactivated, whereas Hephaestus is working.
It's still working. It's entirely possible.
Because that is kind of a question still, why was Hades off? And he had to have Silence to sort of rebuild and reprogram him to turn him on.
Yeah.
And the reason could be whoever sent the signal out specifically wanted him deactivated, because they knew that they're like, this program we don't want. So, yeah.
The name of the facility, the cradle facilities, is Eleuthia.
Eleuthia.
I think that's the name of the cradle facilities. Like they're all called Eleuthia, but they have a different designation.
Yeah. Eleuthia B, Eleuthia 01 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the name I couldn't remember.
Cool. So yeah. All in all,
I thought it was a great game. Mass Effect Andromeda is going to have to pull everything out of the bag to beat it for Game of the Year at this point.
Yeah.
For me.
And I don't have any idea what could even come close that's coming out this year, really. But
no.
Because it was just such a well-told story. The world was so interesting and so well thought out. Like, pretty much every plot point that you wanted to know, they answered.
Yeah, because
and it made
basically,
sense.
I got to the end and was thinking, so where did that signal come from? And then Silent goes, let's find out where that signal came from. And I'm like, okay, right, that plot point's done.
Yeah.
And it's homicidal robots from the past that are well written in a way that makes sense.
Yep.
The reason why they turned on us is a glitch in the system. However, I wonder if the glitch was put in there intentionally. By
I've always
else.
wondred that too. By either
and that
a
they
competitor
may have been the one
of
that
Pharaoh.
sent the signal.
Yeah, because if they were the people who wanted to destroy the world or something, they could have wanted to destroy it for their own purpose.
And then the Gaia program
and then they
paid to their ideas.
And they
so they're
found
waiting
out about
the long
it
game.
or something.
Yeah, hacked it.
Yeah.
And then
that's a definite possibility. Because I always thought, because they said something about where did the glitch come from in the first place, and
it's like,
and they kind of
wouldn't
alluded
you have
to
safeguards in the programming?
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, they alluded to something being awry there, because it's like, that's a pretty big glitch to just be something that just happens.
And you've also put it out already in robots that are serving.
Yeah.
It's not like it was found in testing.
Right.
Because they'd have to test that kind of
they would have had to.
military-grade robot
Yeah.
in controlled circumstances to work out whether it works or not.
Right.
So if it's suddenly just eaten an entire forest and made 17 more of itself, and you can't turn it off,
Yeah.
then it's broken.
Yeah. And so it was either, because I thought that Pharaoh himself may have put the glitch in there in order to sell other things to combat it.
Fight them.
To fight them, because he was like, we need to create, there was this whole little audio log or text log or something where he was ordering human-controlled weapons to be made, which had apparently gone out. Like, they didn't make guns and stuff anymore because they had machines that wielded the weapons, right?
Yeah, so we'd basically fallen behind. It's like, we don't have guns to
fight.
Combat them, we only have other machines.
Right.
But if you make more machines, they'll just control them and turn them against you.
Exactly. And so I was wondering if he put the glitch in the system as like a flaw so that some of them would go bad, so that then we would need to fight them. And that would sell...
He didn't realise that it would cause an event that would end the world.
Right. He didn't realise the extent to which it would spread out. But it actually, I think what you were saying, that maybe it was a rival company or something like that who like hacked it, or maybe was a spy within Pharaoh Industries in order to just destroy the competition or whatnot. That would kind of make sense.
Or like, you just want the world to be for the super rich.
Right. Like, we want the world to be only for our particular group of people.
So we'll cause mass genocide and then repopulate it with space Nazis.
Yeah, pretty much something like that. Yeah.
A stupid example.
So like, we think that all of these people are beneath us and they're consuming all of our resources and destroying our planet. And so let's just finish the job and start over.
It was a catalyst for Mass Effect 3. They destroy the world to save it.
And the cat is like, what is this Gaia thing? This makes so much more sense than me. It must be destroyed!
Exactly.
She's saying that synthetics and organics don't always have to kill each other. It's not destiny. No, that's wrong. Die!
Yeah, so he became Hades and it caused her to blow herself up.
Oh my god, I swear.
And then he's like, you must die at the end. It is foretold.
Yep.
Why are you jamming a spear in my forehead? Get off.
Yep.
No, please, stop.
Yep.
Stop it with your ending that makes sense. Mine is better.
And I liked at the ending where Hades was like, entity is present, we accounted for this, or whatever. So they kind of prepared for Aloy to still be alive, or whatnot, which is I think good stuff. There's
well written,
so many good things. Like,
well written.
We could probably talk for another 3 hours,
game.
Right?
I know, it's basically going to be 3 hours.
Yeah,
at this point.
we could talk for another.
But we should stop.
We should stop. Because people we're probably tired of us about 10 minutes into it. So
yeah,
if you've made it,
what do you mean 10 minutes? More like 15 seconds.
Right. If you've made it this far, thank you.
Well done.
Well done for listening to us carry on.
Have a cookie.
If we could send you cookies, we would.
Yeah. Please don't send us your addresses.
Please don't send us your addresses. I don't want to be responsible for that knowledge.
Especially as YouTube comments. That would be a very bad idea.
Bad idea. So yeah, it was great. I loved it. I loved the story.
I thoroughly
loved
enjoyed
the
it.
world. It was It was fantastic. So, yep.
So we're now Horizon Zero Dawn fan people.
Yes, we are Horizon.
It's the best game ever. If you say it's bad, I'm going to beat you.
Right. Well, if you say it's bad, you're wrong, because it's not bad. If you say you didn't enjoy it and it's not your thing, fair enough.
Exactly. As long as your reason for disliking the game is backed up with solid evidence or your, well-reasoned opinion, cool. If you say you like Horizon Zero Dawn, so you suck, you're a troll and I don't want anything to do with it.
Exactly. Because nothing is perfect, and there are definitely things that could be improved, like the lip sync.
The lip sync was off
for some time for some of the characters.
Or the majority of the game.
Well, yeah, for a lot of the characters and stuff, and sometimes the facial, their eyes did weird things.
There's some weird facial tics.
Weird twitches. Yep. Like I said, I would have liked to have had a melee lock on. For that, but
I think early in the game with the fast travel as well, before you get the golden backpack of ultimate fast travel,
right? Yeah,
you had to really think about where you wanted to go.
But that also sort of forced you to just run around the area.
But that also made sense in the first area too, because it's not huge.
Right, it's not huge, and they wanted you to see the world. Yeah. And so if you're fast traveling everywhere, then A, you're not going to open up any campfires to be able to fast travel, and B, you're not going to see a lot of the world and the side quests and things like that really make it rich. So, I mean, that was fine. I think fine mechanic, but definitely not perfect, things that could be improved, but I think all in all, really stellar.
Looking forward to the future of this franchise.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we will let you guys go. Let us know what you thought of the game if you have played it. And we shall see you in the next one.
Bye.